This program was recorded on Monday, November 17th, in the year of our Lord 2014. The opinions expressed by the participants in the following program do not necessarily represent that of this station or its management. From the John DeVita Recording Studio, located in an undisclosed and clandestine location on the great northwest side of our fair city of Chicago, we once again are pleased to be presenting yet another edition of our monthly roundtable panel discussion show, Meet the Chicago Historians. Now, here's our panel moderator, Jack Red Ryan.
Hello, everybody. Hey, John, are you there in the control room?
I'm sure am.
Did you want to say something?
Well, from the John DeVita Broadcast Center, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another broadcast of Meet the Chicago Historians on the Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network on Monday, November the 17th, the year 2014. Today, the panel will be talking about the Pilgrims, Plymouth Colony, and the first Thanksgiving lesson learned. So sit back and enjoy Meet the Chicago Historians. And now to start today's broadcast, here is our announcer, Mr. Richard Lang.
Now, here is our panel moderator, Jack Red Ryan.
Good afternoon or good morning, whatever the hour may be when you're listening. We're recording it today, and it's still autumn outside officially, but it sure feels like we're getting early winter. But, again, we've been through all this before, so why fuss, right? Anybody disagree with that?
Yeah, I
do. You must be the loyal opposition.
The guy with the long underwear on does.
Yeah, never take it off till real springtime. So, anyway, let's get rolling. First of all, let's have a little Musketeer roll call. Starting on my right, we have who?
Name's Al Opitz. I'm former president of the Austin River Community Council.
And you're what else? Come on, let's hear some of his background.
I'm a student of Ken Little, and he keeps on pushing me because I got a chemical engineering degree.
Yeah. Very good. Got any good chemicals with you?
No, we stay away from chemicals. They're dangerous.
Next up, sir.
Oh, Ken Little here. I was in the fire alarm office for 35 years. I taught at Wright College. And also, you said something about the Pilgrims and all that, but today's it's sort of an inauspicious day. We're burying a mayor.
We'll talk about her.
Yeah.
We'll get to that. We'll have our current events and all that before.
I don't know if she was a pilgrim, but she could have been.
She's old enough.
Next case.
Tom McKenna, retired Chicago police, lifelong friend of our moderator, Jack Red Ryan, goes under all three of those. And as I always say, I'm one of the few people that will actually admit to being a lifelong friend of John Ryan.
Thank you. And we have a guest today with us, guest panelist Mary Zangs.
Yes.
And you are a Chicago native, right? And an author?
An author
and
of the Chicago 77.
Mm-hmm. We're going to talk about that a little later, get into depth, but it's good to have you here. And you are a historian of amateur ranks? Or
Yeah, of amateur
yeah,
ranks.
So
I spent my life as a nurse.
Right, well, I'm saying that's the best kind. People actually, so much research is done or found and discovered by amateurs because they love what they're doing. So
Yeah,
anyway, very good. Next up, Rich.
I'm your announcer, Rich Lang, a longtime local student. Thanks to Ken Little over there, I've done some teaching of modern European and American history, and I'm an general all-round history buff.
At the college level, correct?
That's right, sir.
That's right. Let's stay. Let's. You gotta let people know. Don't be so modest.
Mm-hmm.
Or somebody once told me, you have a lot to be modest about. Told me so. Next case, John.
I'm John Escacholco. I was a state representative and town assessor in Cicero, and master's degree in history, and love to read about and talk about the subject of history, and it's good to be with you as we approach Thanksgiving Day.
Yes, we are. Willem?
And I'm Bill Kugelman, 46 years with the Chicago Fire Department and president of the Firefighters Union. and am very active with the Fire Museum, which is mainly all history of the Chicago Fire Department.
And that's 5218 Southwestern? Is that
You
correct?
got it, 5218 Southwestern. And we have an open house here next Saturday from 10 until 2 o'clock.
And next, is that the 29th?
That is the 29th.
Okay, it wouldn't be this coming Saturday. So the one.
Oh, I'm
you
sorry.
you
No,
said it
it's the-
properly.
The 22nd.
Oh, it is the 22nd.
22nd, yes.
All right.
I was right, and you
Well,
were wrong.
well,
Ooh.
That's right.
Is that the first time it's wrong?
I knew that Tom
Controversy
was
rears its ugly head.
John, right.
First
John,
mistake I
John
made
has
all
been
year.
confusing me my whole life, so welcome to the club.
Yeah. But, okay, the 22nd, which, by the way, would be the anniversary of the Kennedy assassination.
Yes, it would be.
I'm sure everyone remembers where they were when they heard that news,
Yep.
which we all thought was false at first. Oh, come on. Who's pulling our leg? Tom and I were seniors in high school, St. Rita.
Right?
All right, now listen.
What?
Let's find out who you are.
Who am I?
Yeah, who are you?
You know who I am?
Who am I?
Neither do I. No. John Ryan's the name, Jack or Red, or what do you want to call me? I was retired from the police department, the only full-time job I ever had. And I've always approached whatever subject it was baseball or whatever, from a historical standpoint, because certainly whatever activity you're learning about didn't start the day that one learns about it. So yeah, history is, to me, history and geography went so much hand in hand in school. It was it went together, and I like the subject. Okay.
Jack, you said you had, that was your full-time job. Boy, that's more than our president ever had, so as a reminder.
Well, that's something else. Everybody talks about, community organizer, like that's like you're doing God's work or something out there. I've seen this before with different organizations. They get someone comes in, and they work as an organizer or representative for this community organization. Now they're the people who are out there talking to everyone, talking issues. They organize meetings. They're the ones who are guiding them. So they're looked at as being someone in authority. The next thing you know, they're moved into the neighborhood. Now they're going to run for office, and it seems to be a perfect stepping stone because it doesn't pay you much, but you're out there campaigning all the time, basically.
Yeah, that seems to be
Was there any
the,
validity to
the
that?
way
you think?
things are going today.
Yeah.
Well, his hiring is real good. The politician, so-called doctor, but now says everybody else is stupid because they didn't do the Obamacare correctly or whatever. He's coming up and dancing around now.
Oh, you mean those recent tapes that have come up from a Mr.
Gruber.
Mr. Jonathan
Gruber.
Gruber?
Mr. Millionaire Gruber.
Yeah.
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
Yeah, he
Yeah,
made
they-
400,000 telling everybody they're stupid, but I don't know.
He also
Well-
picked up a number of other $400,000 commissions from a number of individual states.
About
He
7
served as
states.
consultant to he
Consultant,
made.
yeah.
They say he made millions serving as a consultant.
like
on this.
1.7 million.
Yeah.
And now nobody knows who he was.
Nobody ever heard of him.
Nancy
Yeah.
Pelosi quoted
Yeah.
him. She said, "I don't know who he is."
Never heard of him. Yeah.
Our president was at meetings with him.
I
Never,
know.
never heard of the man.
You know what an expert is, don't you?
What?
The guy who read the book.
Right.
It reminded me of in the Kane Mutiny when Fred McMurray gives his testimony,
Yeah.
and Jose Ferrer says you should read his testimony. He never heard of Captain Queeg.
Right.
Yeah, that was one of the roles Fred has as a bad guy. That and, The Apartment, and which one more? One more. Well, Double Indemnity, I guess.
Yeah.
Guy caught up in the middle. Anyway, but we digress.
We do.
So, we want to remember that we just passed Veterans Day. We're approaching Columbus. We're approaching Thanksgiving, but we always remember the Veterans Day, which has just gone by a week ago, and 6 days ago, actually. And we always want to thank those who have made it possible. It sounds like maybe you hear this stuff all your life, but if it wasn't for guys like that, we couldn't be even here sitting doing what we're doing now, because we know how everybody in the world loves us, right? So much. We just had another beheading in Syria, right? Was it Syria or?
One of those places.
Somewhere they don't tell you exactly where it's taking place.
Yeah.
I don't think, but
Yeah. But
A bunch of thugs. You know, they go under the guise of religion, but they're thugs.
oh yeah, sure, sure, no doubt about it. We'll see. We'll see what's going to happen here. I guess they're not very much afraid of our foreign policy here. John Kerry condemned this to the high heavens today. Did anyone hear that?
No.
No.
He condemned us, or
No, he condemned the beheading.
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But that's
Murder.
that's just
the murder.
words.
Let's call it what it is, right?
It's just words.
Yeah, words.
Well, here's a guy who
we
went
just
over.
don't have any action
So
going on.
John Kerry condemned it.
Yeah.
Strong letter to follow.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, who cares? John Kerry.
Yeah.
Yeah. I bet that. I bet all those guys with the knives and the face coverings are saying, "Oh my God,
Yeah, look out.
John Kerry just condemned us.
We're in
drop
big
your
trouble."
your knives, boys."
Yeah, as he
You
said in his
kidding me?
British accent.
Yeah, right.
I'm real afraid.
Yeah, I have to quote Ann Coulter that said she longs for the days when everyone in the world hated us. Now they just laugh at us.
Oh, there's so much truth in
You
it.
know, we're giggling about that, but it's very true.
No,
Yeah.
you're
Very true.
Absolutely
very-
correct.
Very sad.
There was a time when we were respected, and our enemies were afraid of us.
Yes.
Right. Yep.
Yeah, well, you got to look at the group leader there.
Right,
And,
the show of strength. Like I said, the wall didn't fall in Berlin because President Reagan stood there and said, we'd really appreciate it. He said, tear down this wall, period.
But
Yeah.
I'm sure glad there aren't any more U.S. soldiers being killed.
Well, they did a coverage of the 25th anniversary of the fall of the Berlin Wall. I think it was on NBC, and they managed to cover it without once mentioning President Reagan.
I wonder why. It must be a bunch of liberals out there. And they all claim that John Paul, the Pope, was the instigator. He was part of it. It was more than one person could do that, but
Well,
still.
How many people were giving Gorbachev all the credit for it? Remember that? Yeah.
The credit belongs to three people: Reagan, Thatcher, and the Pope.
Right.
The three of them together, and they were all important.
How about Lech Walesa, maybe? A little
Well,
bit?
there are a lot of, but at the top,
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
he contributed. There were those in Czechoslovakia that contributed to
Kohl.
it, in Lithuania there were.
Yeah.
But in terms of forcing the Soviets to allow it to happen, and ultimately for the whole Soviet Union to collapse, that was a triple play of Reagan, Thatcher, and John Paul
And,
II.
And it was negotiated from a position of strength.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
That's the bottom line.
Not begging.
Right.
It was something I didn't think was going to happen in our lifetime. It was a real surprise to me. I mean, I'm a happy one. As someone said, it was almost like a poker game. We were sitting there, and the stakes got too high for the Soviets, and we were talking about our strategic defense initiative, the Star Wars, and they were already putting how much of their economy into their military and whatever. What do you say, Ken?
Well, just listening to this, 2 out of the 3 people that you mentioned were shot. So there definitely was a counter group that knew what was happening, and how close that. Just think if they were killed.
Well, the Soviets were very, very fearful when John Paul II was elected. The idea of a pope from behind the Iron Curtain did not appeal to them at all,
No.
particularly someone from Poland, knowing how deeply Catholic and how deeply conservative the Polish people had been.
Yeah.
And they certainly did not like it when either Thatcher or Reagan were elected. I mean, that was like 3 successive blows to them.
Yeah.
78, 79, and 80, because the elections came 3 years in succession like
Yeah.
that.
Someone said that when John Paul returned to Poland, people coming out to greet him, they looked around and they said, "Hey, there's way more of us than there are of them, aren't there?" It was just like an awakening to. course-
I was in Germany. Let's see, I got married about 3 years after the wall collapsed, and we're able to still see the remnants of the wall at that time, because right now most of it's more or less hidden away or torn down. And they got photographs of Checkpoint Charlie. Now it's sort of hidden away again. When you go there, they say, "Oh yeah, it's way over there." And then the other thing was sort of remarkable. If we were on the bus, we took a bus tour. All the trucks that were passing us, they didn't have any cars as such. So here's all these trucks coming in with unbelievable loads of junk. They're mostly old cars, and they were tearing them apart. I saw a hulk of a Volkswagen there. The screws were gone. The only thing that was left was the iron. And the the claim at that time was that the stuff that the Polish didn't want went to the Ukraine. How true that was, I don't know. But the other problem was that, a funny story, the guy was telling me on a trip that his buddy had a Mercedes, and it was stolen. And his buddy was in Poland, and hey, I found your car. It's in Poland over there. So he went over to Poland, took the car, went back. Now he was wanted in Poland for stealing the car.
Stealing his own car.
Yeah.
Well, stranger things have happened.
The amazing thing about that period, too, along with the collapse of the Soviet Union, was how quickly Germany reunited
That's right.
as a member of NATO.
Oh, they didn't have without any problems. They had a lot of problems because East Germany was so used to the communist regime.
Oh, yeah.
And the story always goes, you didn't have to work, but you had to show up. You know, basically what it
No, that was a quote from 11th Warder.
Well, somebody told me it was the opposite of the city of Chicago. You didn't have to show up, but you got paid. Over there, you had to show up, and you didn't have to work. So
They used to say, we pretend to work and they pretend to pay us.
right.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like there obviously be problems in reuniting, but it just seemed like it happened quickly.
But-
Wow.
Move that headphone there.
Oh,
Oh.
the mic.
Aha.
But the other thing that was sort of funny, we were there in Berlin, and you have more cranes in the air. It looked like a pincushion. All the construction going on, stuff like that at the time. It was remarkable how much it was done in a relatively short period of time. And I got photographs at home, if I could ever find them again, of the houses that were facing the east that were bricked in, so people couldn't jump out of them and stuff like that.
Oh, sure.
Well,
Well,
one thing's for sure. No one ever escaped from the west to the east there, did they? Never remember
not really
anybody.
escaped.
That was- That was
Oswald or someone like that. maybe
John
went.
Kennedy. That was one of the things he said. He said we may have our failings, but we never had to put a wall up to keep people in.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Maybe in Chicago we'll have to do that pretty soon.
There's a great movie, a spoof called Top Secret. Have you ever seen a movie called Top Secret? It's kind of like a Mel Brooks film, but
I think I caught a bit of it.
and
What's
it's a
in that?
parody of East Germany, and it's got all these people in the Olympics. It's a parody about an American going to participate in the Olympics, and they have the East Germans singing their East German anthem, and they're all singing "Hail, Hail, East Germany, land of wine and grape, where no matter what you do, there's no way to escape. If you try to run, we'll shoot you down." And they're all crying. They're crying in tears. They're singing their anthem. "We'll mow you down with machine guns."
I talked to a cousin of mine, and actually, but she was telling us how she escaped from East Germany. And basically, my cousin was a little girl at the time. She put him under the jacket, got across the border, and was able to escape. You know, this was earlier in the period of time. After that, they wouldn't let anybody go across the border. Mm-hmm. And that was if you went from the west to the east to visit relatives, you had a hard time getting back.
Probably had to leave your library card or something.
Oh, you had to leave more of that. You had to leave everything.
Hey, we got a phone call. Hello.
Hello?
Shannon Brown?
Yes.
Oh, I recognize your voice. Yes, folks, this is Shannon Brown calling us from, where are you calling from? Bloomington, Indiana?
Yeah, Bloomington, Indiana. Mm-hmm.
And this is about the Abraham Lincoln 2015 Memorial Train?
Correct, yeah.
Okay, what's going on and when are the dates of this? And tell us all about it. You've got the air.
Well, we've got a couple of things going on. The dates, the biggest significant date is May 3rd. May 2nd and 3rd will be in Springfield, Illinois. And we're going to be presenting the train there on the 150th anniversary of the train arriving, bringing Lincoln's body home. And we are right now looking to finish the funeral car in time to take it to Washington, D.C. in April. That would be on the 21st of April is when the train originally left. And so we're working hard. The car's been being built in Elgin, Illinois, and we're looking for some sponsors and some more donations to get the car completed in time to have it in Washington in April. Otherwise, it will just probably be going to Springfield in May. So, but that's kind of what's going on with us. We've got work on the car is progressing and at a pretty good clip because we have to, and trying to get it done as soon as we can. But
is this a
I'm sorry?
Is this a reproduction of the railroad car in which his body was carried?
That's correct, yes. It's an exact replica. The only difference is being modern safety features, things that, that the FRA, the Federal Railroad Administration, has us to do now. But beyond that, yes, it would be an exact recreation of the car that carried Lincoln's body from Washington back to Springfield. And there are no government funds, no grant money, anything like that involved. We do have some sponsors, some corporate sponsors on board with us. For example, Fisher Nuts and John B. Sanfilippo and Sons. They've been wonderful. Henry Rifle Company, a few other corporate sponsors, Indian Tea there in the Chicago area. But, we're looking for more sponsors and folks that would like to help us to pay tribute to Lincoln, because this is truly a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to do so. And this anniversary is huge, and this is one man's dream come true. Dave Clokey out of Elgin, Illinois, is constructing the car, and it's beautiful. It's a beautiful replica. People that are following us on Facebook, it's just 2015 Lincoln Funeral Train on Facebook, and you can see updated photos there. They're working now on the trucks, the wheel sets for the car, and getting the pedestals done for those, and everything is going to be as historically accurate as we can make it, and we want as many people to see it as possible. So we're hoping to get some more donations in and get to as many places as we possibly can.
Do we know what happened to the actual car, the original, the car that did carry Lincoln's body? Is there any record of what became of it?
Yes, it was actually it was for sale before it ever got to Springfield. Believe it or not, it was already up for sale, and it passed through some railroad hands and some private hands, and ended up in just outside of Minneapolis, Minnesota, and in 1911 was destroyed by a prairie fire that got out of control, and they couldn't save it. So
it was on display there at that time?
It actually was not on display. It had deteriorated quite a bit, and the gentleman who owned it at the time planned to restore it, but had never gotten around to doing so. So it wasn't in the best condition when it was destroyed. There are a few surviving pieces of it, a few pieces of window frames and things like that, but most of it was completely destroyed. Now, we do have access to some of those pieces and have used those. For example, the piece of the window frame, we used our master carpenter that is doing much of the woodwork for us, a volunteer from Iowa, actually, by the name of Jerry Meninga, and he used photographs. He was able to take photographs of the window frame and use that, to scale to recreate the clear story windows up at the top of the car, as well as the main window frames in the body of the car. So,
what's the Facebook page address?
Yeah, on Facebook, it's just facebook.com/2015 Lincoln Funeral Train.
Okay. And do you have a regular website too?
Yeah, it's the 2015 LincolnFuneralTrain.com.
Say that again.
Yeah, the 2015 LincolnFuneralTrain.com.
Okay. Any other questions, please? Come questions.
What do you plan to do with the railroad car after the anniversary ceremonies are completed? What will you do with it?
Good question. We're actually going to have it out and tour throughout 2015. We have a lot of communities, probably upwards of 24 now, that have requested to have the train come back after its appearance in Springfield and spend some time in their communities. So it will travel throughout 2015, the entire train. The locomotive, Dave Clokey also built a locomotive that is an 1860s era replica. So that entire train will travel to those communities and any others that might want to see it. And beyond that, at some point, the funeral car itself will need to find a permanent home. Where that is going to be remains to be seen. But there have been some interest from a few places, but there's nothing definite as far as where it will end up as a permanent piece. The locomotive will stay with Dave Clokey and Historic Railroad Equipment Association. So.
Rich, you got a question?
Is it the plan to do in reverse the route of the original funeral train? In other words, you would start it at Springfield and go toward Washington, D.C., before you then maybe visit other sites?
Not completely,
Okay.
although we would certainly be getting back to some of the cities where the original train stopped. For example, there are a few places up in northern Ohio that would like us to stop, and it's going to be coming back to Indianapolis, which is another stop on the 1865 route. But we won't retrace that route exactly.
Right.
It will just be a matter of putting together, when these communities would like for us to come back and what the most efficient route for us to do so will be.
What about the big cities like New York and Baltimore? Are they interested in it?
They are. We've gotten pretty good response out of Baltimore. New York City, I am not directly involved with the communications with New York City at this time, but I do know that there is some interest there. I know Albany has a pretty good interest. Trying to think of some of the others. As I said, Wellington area in Ohio, north central Ohio, Columbus, Ohio, Indianapolis, certainly. So there are several of the larger cities where formal funerals were held in 1865 that are very interested in having us to come back.
Mary, questions? Any questions? Tom?
Yeah, for those that want to make a donation, how do we go about it?
Yes, you can make donations via the website. So that will just be the 2015 LincolnFuneralTrain.com site, and there's a button there to donate. It's PayPal. All of the donations are tax deductible. We are a 501c3 registered in Illinois, so all of that is tax deductible. Folks are welcome to do that. There's also a mailing address. I don't know if you want that or not, but there's a mailing address if someone
sure.
would
Let's
want
have
to.
it. Yeah, let's have the mailing address.
Sure. 1325 Spalding Road, Spaulding Road, and that's Elgin, Illinois, 60120.
Great.
I'm sorry, what was the city before you mentioned it?
Elgin.
Elgin. I'm sorry. I misunderstood.
Better watch yourself.
Yeah.
Elgin.
Elgin.
That was John Ryan that made that comment.
Are
Any
you
other
still
questions,
willing
Bill?
to admit
Got a
to
question?
being a...
No, not really.
It's
Sounds
getting
good, doesn't it,
close.
so far?
Very
Yeah.
interesting.
So that's on the edge.
How far has your website progressed as far as showing the train?
I'm sorry, how far is what?
How far has your website progressed as far as showing the train? In other words, what does it contain?
As far as how the work is progressing?
Well, the website itself. What's on it? To pique
There's
people's
a
interest?
lot of information on the website. There's information about the original car. There's information about our car, the replica. Information about the locomotive and the route. And there are lots of links to videos. We've got several YouTube videos up now. And so those are all linked on there. And donations obviously could be made through the website. So lots of stuff on there.
Wouldn't you rather get 10,000 small donations than 2 or 3 big ones?
It's all good. It's all good. So,
Take everything, right? Accept them
All
all?
money.
yeah, it's and again, as the project progresses and as we're out, we spent a lot of time out this past spring and summer going to communities with the locomotive and taking it around and pulling some cars with it and letting people ride on behind that locomotive and so as awareness builds and excitement builds for this, we're certainly picking up interest every day, and it's just that this is it's a huge undertaking. It's a monumental project and a very important one We just hope to get to enough people in time, that we can finish the car. We'll finish the car regardless, but we want to finish it in time to get to all of these events that are so significant for the country, because Washington, D.C. is planning a lot of events. They've got a lot of different groups working sort of as one big committee to put together just some amazing and exciting things, and things that haven't been seen in 150 years and probably won't be again for another 150. So we want to be a part of that, and it's logistically and financially challenging, but we hope to be able to do it.
Well, thank you, Shannon Brown. The 2015 LincolnFuneralTrain.com, correct?
Correct.
And do you promise we can talk to you again in a couple of months, see what's going on? And
Absolutely.
All right.
Always happy to do it.
We'll be in touch.
Great.
All right. Thank you so much, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Best wishes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What a great presentation.
Wasn't it?
Yeah.
All we got to do is get the information out, right?
Yeah.
Now for a brief intermission. You've been listening to Meet the Chicago Historians.
So have we.
Very good.
And we're glad you are, Ben.
Hey friends, do you need an awning over your front, side, or back door? Or your windows? How about a canopy for your carport? Or a patio cover over your patio so you can enjoy being outside in case of rain? All you have to do is call Awnings and More, and Raphael Bogus will drive over, measure up whatever you need, and go from there. You can call Awnings and More at area code 773-710-8403 or 847-890-1447. So if you need awnings for your windows or doors, call Raphael Bogus at Awnings and More at area code 773-710-8403 or 847-890-1447. Now, Raphael also installs hand railings for your front, side, or back steps. You must be safe when you go up and down the steps, especially in bad weather. So for awnings or handrails, call Raphael Bogus at area code 773-710-8403 or 847-890-1447. Again, Awnings and More for awnings and handrails, call Raphael Bogus at 773-710-8403 or 847-890-1447.
Now, back to our show.
That's a catchy tune there. What is it? Does anyone know?
That's New York, New York, isn't it?
Is it? It's not. It's not. I know one thing. It's not Chicago, Chicago, is it? No.
No, Chicago.
Chicago.
Chicago. It's
You can listen to it in the front room.
I live in
The
Chicago.
front room, next to the prairie, right? Well, now, folks, we have our guest today, Mary Zangs, and you've brought your book with you, right? You are an author.
A new author.
Is this your first book?
I did write a very small book on the history of San Pedro, California, on Terminal Island in San Pedro,
From where?
California.
You're from there?
No, we lived there just
Where's
for
that?
a while. It was Terminal Island. It's in the harbor of Los Angeles.
Oh, Terminal Island.
That don't sound too good.
I know it doesn't.
Was there a jail there or something?
Yeah, there's a prison there. The
There was a
Coast
movie
Guard.
there, too. A movie made
A
about
lot
that.
of movies were made
Yeah.
there.
It was a big rock, wasn't it?
Big shipyard.
Oh, that's the wrong one. That's the other one.
Yeah.
I remember when I used to work on the Area 3 and the three-wheeler, right next to there was a big CTA bus barn, at 71st and Ashland, and right across on 71st, the other side, a pool hall. The name of it was Terminal Billiards, and I thought that sounded like some kind of a disease, didn't it? I have a case of terminal billiards here.
Yeah, right.
Anyway, we digress. Let's hear about the book. What are we talking about here?
Terminal.
Title?
Well,
Tell us everything.
It's called the Chicago 77 because of the 77 community areas in Chicago. A lot of people don't know that we have 77 official areas that with permanent boundaries. And within those 77 community areas are like over 200 neighborhoods. So everybody really mostly identifies with their neighborhood.
You had the neighborhood names. You had
Yes,
Catholic parishes, or a lot of people went by that. What, parish are you
Yeah,
from?
a lot of people would say, like
Less
from
than used to
some
be,
Tommy
still-
Moore's.
Anyway, let's hear about how did you get into
How'd you
get
get
into this?
into it, Mary?
Well, really, when I was still working as a nurse, we had a trivia game at home, and with all our friends, and we wanted to do something on Chicago, and all I could find at the bookstores were like the Encyclopedia of Chicago or any big, academic thing. And so I said, when I retire, I'm going to make something for just us common folks to be able to, for less expensive and smaller and more handy. And so I kept thinking about it while I was working, and finally I came up with how I wanted to do it. And when I retired, I did it.
You did it.
Yeah, it gave me a retirement project to, ease into not work.
I bet you learned an awful lot.
Now,
Yeah, it was great.
Mary, you got the communities. Ken is the street man here. He knows every street there is out here,
Yeah.
except Easy Street, right? You were never there, were you?
Yeah, oh yeah. Well, we change the name every now and then. So yeah.
There's so much I found out just by looking at the street names. There's other.
Let's have a
there's
game
several
here. Someone
books.
name a street. You tell.
And you see if you know
you
what
tell-
it is.
What it is, where it is, and you tell what the community is. How's that?
You can.
Sorry.
I'm hearing different.
Oh, we should do this for our television version, right?
Yeah, well, go ahead. You can. You
Play
win
a
or
game.
Is
lose.
it Gullickson?
Gunnison?
Gullickson?
Gullickson.
Oh.
There's
Oh,
a
there's a
Gullickson
Gullickson.
Road,
Where's that?
Oh,
south side.
Some of these places, they don't exist except for a street sign. What's the one out around 87th and Pulaski? It shows
Yeah.
up in Oak Lawn again, but not in
Well, that's what I always like when I watch television announcers or newsreaders, as I refer to them, and they and you can always tell the ones that aren't from Chicago how they mispronounce
Yeah.
names. Polina is one, or
Yeah.
Yeah.
they have a different, or Honor Street instead of Honor.
Honor.
Yeah,
yeah.
Honor.
Honor,
they,
yeah.
they make mincemeat out
How
of those.
about Goethe?
Yeah, right.
Or they'll say,
Well,
and they'll say Throop instead of Troop.
yeah, or they'll say Madison Avenue here, which is New York, of course, Madison
Yeah.
Street, and do the opposite for some of the others. So
I heard one they were doing military history. Did you ever hear of the armistice?
Right, Armistice.
Armistice.
Armistice. Armistice.
Armistice. It was
Oh.
armistice.
sounds like Norton with his string of Peloponnese.
Is that like a Navy corpsman?
That's good.
Oh, the other question for where's Avenue A at?
Right next to Avenue B.
There is an Avenue A.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
A,
on
B,
the
C,
east
D,
side.
Medical
right.
streets, yeah.
A, B, C, D.
South
Actually,
East.
it was on
M.I.C..
State Line Road.
A-E-Y.
Right, those were supposed to be temporary designations, and I think they just stuck.
Yeah.
That's right.
After
That's what I heard,
100
too.
years. Well, that's
So,
stupid.
Or I won't make the reference to the people that live there's mentality to remember names, so they just named them A, B, C,
You
D.
gotta look at New York and tell them 3 times that they live in New York City, New York State, and New York County.
County of New York, State of New York, City of New York.
New York
And they
Yankees.
might even get into the idea where they're living after a while.
Yeah, what a city. You got 5 counties inside of one city.
Manhattan is
Yeah.
New York County.
Yeah. So anyway, different communities.
Yeah, what did you what was probably your most interesting thing or something that you learned you said, I never heard of this before?
Oh,
And obviously you didn't live in all these neighborhoods.
Probably about
no,
our show,
I
right?
did visit most of them.
strange
Well, you
Almost-
probably
I
had
think
to
all of
visit
them.
them, yeah.
And it was great to get the libraries. We have wonderful libraries and wonderful librarians in Chicago. So I was able to find out a whole lot from visiting.
You know
them.
anything bad about our libraries? In fact, they got short hours.
Yeah,
Thanks
it's
to a certain
getting less
mayor.
and less. I also identified some place of interest in each neighborhood, and that's where I found a lot of good things that I hadn't known. Like in South Chicago, the Drake Fountain. I hadn't known about that. There's a beautiful fountain out the intersection in South Chicago, and it had been first placed in City Hall, it was donated by the hotel man John Drake from the Drake
I
Hotel,
didn't know that. Yeah.
and it served as a drinking fountain really back in the day, and then so I guess they didn't want to remove it, destroy it, so they put it down
moved it
south.
out south.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there is so much local history. There's not too far away. There's a local native who was buried on his own property. Can't think of his name.
In South Chicago.
South Chicago.
Yeah, they still. It's in the middle of a
Along
scrapyard.
Ewing
yeah,
Avenue
it's in
there.
the middle of a yard. Yeah, I've been there. I worked
Yeah.
with a guy once that said, "Hey, there's a grave in the middle of this place."
Yeah.
Yeah, that is.
But how many other unknown graves are there
Oh.
around us?
We find one once in a
This
while.
We
one
find
has
them
a-
once.
Yeah.
has his marker restored.
Well, Al's talking about doing a history on Dunning.
Yeah, that,
They admit that there's like 30,000 graves,
Yeah.
burials in Dunning. I'm right. That they know.
38,000, and the burial started in 1854.
Yeah.
And Cook County, actually, contrary to everybody's belief, Cook County did buy that property from a guy by the name of Peter Ludby, who nobody knows anything about because you can't find anything about him. He's not in the census, so forth and so forth. And they bought the property as a cemetery. And they started burying people in 1854. And I got to find out exactly when they did, but they expanded to Harlem Avenue in two purchases on the west of Oak Park Avenue. And then in 1872, the poor house out on, I think it was 43rd and the Lake, I guess it got overcrowded or whatever reason was, they decided to relocate the poorhouse over in Dunning. And the problem with the poorhouse was the fact that...
What kind of house?
Poorhouse.
Oh, poorhouse.
Alms Farm, whatever you want to call it. Actually, it was like sweeps. They used to take anybody that was a vagrant off the street, and the trouble is they had vagrants that were actually destitute. They had people that were insane, and they had tuberculosis.
Oh.
And they just essentially put them all in one building, and consequently they had all kinds of problems. Then the other part of the problem was all patronage workers. So consequently,
In Chicago?
that's Cook
shocking.
County. Cook
shocked.
County. And every time the administration changed, the workers changed. So it got to be a real ado there. But if you want to listen to more about it, come December 1st over Irving Austin Library. Austin Irving Library, I'm sorry. Austin
time?
Irving Library at 6:30 in the evening. Be there or be square. And hopefully I'll be there too.
December 1st.
Yeah, December 1st. Hopefully I can have some handouts. You'll find it quite interesting.
This is a paid political announcement. I'm Al Opitz, and I approve of this message.
Charges to my account since I don't have any money.
December 1st at the, which library now?
Austin Irving
Austin
Library.
Austin Irving.
6100 Irving Park.
PM, not AM now.
Well, John, I have to tell you, well, you probably already know this, that my lifelong dream has been to visit every bar in the city of Chicago.
You're an Irishman, aren't you?
Right. Well, I'm working on it. As a matter of fact, later tonight I'll be working on it. So
You're working on,
when I finish, I will be writing a book too.
I thought you were doing your master's.
No, I have my master's.
So,
I'm working on the doctorate.
There's a great line, that the fellow like you says, he said, my doctor said I can only have one drink a day. He said, see this drink here? This is May 19th, 2024.
Mary, different communities, were some formerly towns of their own, or their own towns of their own, or how did they?
Yeah. In the back of the book, the Newberry Library made a beautiful map about when different areas were incorporated into the county and to the city, and how a lot of the community areas got their name then from little villages that had been in that community, like Elston and Montclair. Yeah.
I think wasn't Mount Greenwood? Was that
Was that a town of its own at one time?
Yes,
It was a
yes, it
town,
was,
yeah.
and Washington
Yeah.
Heights,
Yeah,
Yeah, right.
Hyde
I don't know
Park.
if you know
and
Mary.
Norwood
Morgan
Park,
Park,
yeah.
and
Yeah.
Beverly. All that.
Austin was part of my town of Cicero until it was annexed to the city of Chicago.
Yeah, and the
Thank you.
town of the
You're welcome.
The township of
and you're
Cicero.
you're quite welcome.
At the time
About-
of the next station, it was a pretty nice town too.
the actually Cicero voted to give it to Chicago. The way
Yeah.
it's actually
They
what
did.
happened.
Beware
because
of
they
people
thought
bearing gifts,
Austin
huh?
had too much power.
That's
in
right.
The
Yeah,
area.
the vote in Austin was against. They had a referendum,
Yeah.
and the vote in the Austin neighborhood was against. But the vote in the remainder of the town of Cicero was in
Voted
favor
them
of
into-
dumping it
sent
in
them to
Oh, that's a
Chicago's
good
lap.
story.
Sounds like the Sudetenland.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You can still visit the town hall over there.
Right.
Yeah, it's
Right.
beautiful.
Right.
That had been the Cicero Town Hall.
Yeah.
Also, our firehouse there, which is still active, was not built by Chicago. I did a history.
Oh,
on
the
all
original.
all
Oh, yeah.
Can you tell me where that town hall is actually? I've heard of it, but I've never actually. Can you tell
It's
me
on
where it's
Lake
located?
Street.
Lake and
Lake and
Central.
Central.
Yeah,
Lake and Central.
Lake and
Yeah, and
Central.
it's in its own little park.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Town
but
hall.
it's
It's part
not
of the
the
Park
origi-
District now.
Colonial
Yeah.
style.
I wanted to see it, but I've never
It's
known.
not the
exactly.
original building. The original building was torn down, but the replacement,
Would that be where, like, right near Wrigley Field, and that be Lakeview, right? At Lakeview? What do they call that there?
Oh, where the town hall at Austin. It's in the Austin.
No, but I mean, and I'm talking about Wrigley Field is in Lakeview, correct?
Oh, yes.
We used to call the station there the Town Hall Police Station. Did that get a name?
Yeah, that's because it was part of the when there was the Irving Park Township, Lakeview Township. I mean, they had their own fire department there, and it was the town hall for the township
Yeah, it was
before
a-
it was
it was a
incorporated.
We
into
all
the
still have
city.
townships. People realize that out there. I don't
Yeah.
think about them, but
And yeah, we had them.
Property tax.
Lake,
yeah.
North.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Lake,
Lake.
Oh, it's the most
Proviso, all
Lions.
these names, Nutrier, all
Even
these.
within the city,
But
there are
yeah.
townships theoretically within the city.
Yeah,
of
there's
Well,
Chicago.
they
still
were until they were
Jefferson.
incorporated.
The most
Yeah.
interesting one is Norwood Park Township, which was carved out of two other townships, or actually three, I guess it was, but it's carved out of Jefferson and Lighton Township.
At least those, yeah.
And it's unusual, and it's only 3 miles by 3 miles, where most townships are 6 by 6 miles.
6 by 6, yeah.
Did immigration and ethnicity play any big part in these
Yeah,
developments?
that was so interesting.
Is
That see how different immigrant groups, how they all stuck to themselves.
Yeah.
You go live with someone who spoke the same language and had the same culture,
Yeah.
and a lot of the little neighborhoods were all enclaves of like Albany Park, or down along Lincoln. It was all German.
Very much so, yeah.
And then they said Milwaukee Avenue was like the Polish.
Polish.
And then Grand Avenue was the Italian
Yeah.
road. But there's still all these.
Italian, yeah.
I noticed, Mary, you mentioned movie palaces and smaller theaters as focal points of these neighborhoods. A lot of us remember these as
Yeah.
when we were youngsters.
And some of them are still around, and most of them are not.
Right.
But it's the ones that have been stayed and restored are great. Like the Logan Theater, it was recently just sold. I think it's been 2 years now, but they remodeled and they uncovered just plain plaster and found all this beautiful work, iron work and things underneath. And so it's great when things like that
There's
happen.
I forgot the name of the theater. There's one on Elston Avenue. It's a mosque right now.
Oh, Ramova was
Ramova.
called.
Yeah,
The Ramova?
Montrose, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Between Montrose
No,
and
Ramova is
Yeah.
Halsted and 35th.
Oh, okay.
Ramova,
Yeah.
yeah.
One of my things.
Something like that, Ken.
It's very close.
Yeah.
Yeah, very close
Yeah.
name. And I understand that the Muslims are going to restore the front of this.
They've
They've been
already
working
have.
on it, yeah.
They already have.
Entrances,
It's
yeah.
done. Yeah, I go by there every day.
I haven't
Yeah.
seen it. I've seen
Looks
it when it
good.
was
Looks
torn
good.
off, and I got some
Yeah.
photographs of that. But
Yeah.
Even now, you still see some of the remains of it seems like in the 1950s when the highways were built, everybody started moving out to the suburbs. It was,
Yeah.
and but there's still little enclaves like in North Park is still very Swedish. You find A lot of
Yeah.
little Swedish restaurants, and
Andersonville.
of course Andersonville and Edgewater
Yeah,
is still
yeah.
Swedish. And
Okay, what about, can anybody think of a name, an old neighborhood name, and see if it's a proper, is it a sub, part of one other? Because you have a list, don't you, of
Well,
different
Oh,
other,
yeah.
The most
Like,
famous
what
neighborhood
about-
of all is Bridgeport. Now, is Bridgeport a community area in
Yes.
addition to being? I
what
would
about
assume-
back of the cities? Do you know what
Back of the
what
east side.
of the
community
yard.
area? I mean, back of the yard.
Back of the
Yeah.
yards.
Do you know what community area that's
Hey.
in?
Ooh.
Well,
See,
it's
who would
primarily
guess?
Polish, Irish.
Yeah,
But that's not a community area. It's just
back
a
It's
of
New
the yards
City.
was the back of the stockyards.
yeah.
Yeah.
is that New City?
New City. Very
Yeah.
New
good.
City, yeah.
Well, there was a New City
Well,
police
I was
station
gonna
at
say that
47th.
the police station at
Yeah,
47th.
they show that in Northside. It's called Northside 777. That's the New City police station in there.
No, it isn't. They, no, they. I don't think.
Betcha.
They use the one to 35th and Low.
No.
The only one that's still
Sure?
Yeah.
still questioned about
'Cause-
is they call it Canaryville. Why?
Oh yeah,
The
there
two-
are
two
different
theories.
Oh yeah. You say.
Eddie
Do you know?
Burke's home, Bailiwick.
There was supposed to be goldfinches in the area, which are improperly called wild canaries.
Yeah, I've heard. I know a lot of guys that were from Canaryville, and
My
as
dad.
many guys as I knew had
Yeah.
a
They all
story
had
of why
parakeets.
Had a different
why it's
story,
Canary.
yeah.
The pigs were
Called
from
canaries.
the yards. They could hear them squealing, and they said, "Oh, those are the canaries."
Or no, the one I heard was, it's a corruption of Canaryville, which makes sense too.
Oh,
Cannery?
I had no
Packing?
idea.
Yeah, I don't think there's a definitive answer to that.
Yeah, no, I don't think
So you may as
so.
well call it Ostrichville,
Oh,
Also, it was south of 39th Street, so it was not
part of the city.
part of the city.
After until when?
1889.
Just before the
1889.
yeah, before they were the World's Fair.
Before, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
There
So
are,
that's why. I'm sorry.
I say in Cicero there are 8 distinct neighborhood names. Because Cicero has neighborhoods just as Chicago does, and one of the 8 is called Parkholme, Parkholme. There's absolutely no record as to why that name. All the other 7 all have clear explanations of how the name originated. But in all the research I've ever done, there's no indication of how it got that name, what it means, or where it originated.
Yeah.
Parkholme.
The other one that's sort of interesting, Dunning, the area one time was called Belmont Heights. And when it was changed and why it was changed and what happened to Belmont Heights as a name, I don't know. There's a community, not a community, but a neighborhood called Belmont Heights, but
Yeah.
the whole area.
I think it still exists toward Belmont,
Yeah.
west of
Yeah.
Harlem.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
you were
Still
talking. You were
probably
talking
Denny.
about when people start moving west and moving out of the city. I remember when I was in high school, in the '60s. I lived at 63rd and Hermitage, and I remember. Well, it's probably just after I graduated from high school. John will remember this when they started building all those new brick bungalows on 63rd Street all the way out to Harlem. And I remember, we didn't have a car, but I remember being in someone else's car and driving out there. And I said, oh my God, I mean, who would possibly want to live way,
Right.
Oh, I know.
way out here? And this is, I mean, you just was, unthinkable
Light
that
years
someone
away.
would want to be way. And I mean, now look at look at
Yeah.
where people are moving.
The other one is sort of interesting, St. Paschal Church. The Schorsch family was heavily involved with Albert Schorsch in particular, and he built a myriad of various bungalows. And it was
Yeah,
sort of
the
funny
village.
Oh,
that
yeah, they have
the
such
area
villas.
that they built in is actually part of Dunning, but he calls it West Portage Park because he didn't like the Dunning name.
Yeah, he was afraid to associate it with the
Yeah,
insane
well,
asylum. What they had.
There were Schorsch villages all over
Yeah,
the place.
yeah.
Wherever he built,
And
Yeah,
they
Hermosa
call it
and,
Schorsch.
yeah,
George.
Yeah.
and
Yeah, there's
Sorge
another
Avenue.
Schorsch village out there on Cumberland and
Yeah,
That's
near
what
the
I'm saying,
airport.
they're all
Yeah,
over the
Montrose
city.
or so.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
a
They're out in the
Schorsch.
suburbs.
Yeah.
and then there's a Schorsch village down the street from me,
Yeah.
and there's a new Schorsch. It's relatively new. There was a open land on Roscoe and Normandy that was a part of the school property, and the school sold it, and Schorsch built some more buildings up there. So he's been all over the place. Now where Schorsch is at, I don't know. I met Albert Schorsch III, but he didn't
I don't know if
talk.
they're not building houses anymore.
No.
are they?
I don't know. Albert III don't.
Maybe in heaven.
Maybe
Yeah.
I don't know what he's doing because he was sort of
Bungalows and-
very timid and wouldn't talk about it.
Oh,
But isn't the real core of the Shorish Village Roscoe and Oak Park? That seems to be the heart of
That's a newer
substantial bungalows.
Yeah.
one.
Newer?
That,
Really?
that's a newer one. The original one was around St. Pascal because
Yeah.
St. Pascal.
I mean, you're Austin and Irving. Yeah, which
Yeah.
is St. Pascal.
Yeah.
sure.
That's the
the
one-
whole area there was
It's,
built by
it's a
Shores.
historic district now.
they
Yeah.
used to.
Just north of Thorpe.
Well, you got to look
School.
at the Cardinal lived there.
Exactly.
Yeah, he
He's
lived
from
on-
there area.
on
Yeah.
Dakin.
It was his parish.
Yeah.
Dakin, yeah, he
Yeah.
grew up at St. Pascal.
Yeah. Remember, he used to go out and look at the Christmas decorations on Oak Park Avenue,
Oh, yeah.
Candy Cane Lane.
Candy cane.
That's
Lane.
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I just say what's significant? I know that the community areas are officially recognized by the city. They have official boundaries. What significance do they have? I mean, does the city use them in any way for any governmental purpose?
Oh, yes, definitely. Even all the little community programs, like when I was a nurse, our grant, I worked under a grant, and we only covered certain community areas, so we had to know the boundaries. And the census uses it, all those boundaries too, to compare things. The public health department it's very important for their statistics and data to compare how things have changed, because those borders have stayed the same since the 1920s, and they've never changed. And so that
The-
really gives them a good idea of how things have changed in
These
that area.
these areas were first laid down officially in the 1920s.
Yes, it was the University of Chicago School of Sociology had a committee who did it, and the public health department assisted them.
Hey, I was born there.
Where
Where?
University of Chicago.
Oh,
Really?
isn't
The
that
atomic
great?
age and myself.
the other question is,
You-
what was the original name of Grant Hospital?
Oh, I don't know.
German hospital.
Oh,
Yeah.
They changed it after World War
One.
World War
After
One.
World War One.
I
Yeah.
was born there. Great.
oh, that's how you know.
Where
I
were
didn't
you
go
born
in
at?
Grant, yeah.
Yeah.
I was
Did
too.
you change your name?
That's when Bismarck became.
Yeah, it was called like German Deaconess
yeah.
or something like that.
yeah.
Well, my sister Joanne had a summer job when she was in school. She worked for the Great American Insurance Company, which had been the German American Insurance Company before World War I, too.
Yeah.
So
Well, there's also GATX rail car company. Used to be called German American.
And did you know Jay's potato chips were from Chicago?
Mrs.
Oh,
Japs.
sure.
And they were Mrs. Japs.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And in World War II, that changed.
Even though it had
too.
two P's, didn't sound right.
Yeah,
did it?
but
Yeah.
yeah,
yeah,
We know
they
all
hurt
that.
the business for a while, so they changed the J's, and
yeah.
they sort of got forced out. They had a good business going, but the problem was they had no way of storing their product, and the cost of moving product from one truck to another for storage purposes got prohibitive, and went down the
That's
tubes.
when they closed.
'Cause
Oh,
I
they were
was
bought
at a
out.
hearing at City Hall one time when they were trying to get some money to expand, and they got the money, but they were too late, too short, too late type of thing.
Too bad some people couldn't have chipped in.
Oh,
Once again, that was John Ryan.
Okay, come on, let's go. We've got some more. Get it a name. Canaryville, is that a official name or is that just a?
That's a
portion?
neighborhood
It is.
name.
Is
Yeah.
it? It's
That's
a neighborhood,
not a
which means not
community?
community.
No, it's in Bridgeport.
Is that in New City or
Either in, I think it's Bridgeport.
about Bridgeport?
Yeah.
Don't tell them that.
Yeah. So, and would you know what community area Chinatown is in?
No.
Anybody guess?
I have no idea.
What is it?
It's Armour Square.
Armor Camera, yeah.
Armour
Square.
Park.
Yeah.
Armour, yeah, that was an old park. It was
Still is.
Yeah.
And you
You
know who
remember,
that's
huh?
named after? Huh?
You were helping build it.
Armour the
No.
Armour the big,
The meat
meat
packer, I would
yeah.
imagine.
Yeah.
And
DePaul
that
University up on
Chinatown-
Fullerton. What neighborhood is that? What community area? is
That's Lincoln Park.
Well, that is Lincoln Park. That's okay.
And I remember back in the day when that neighborhood was sort of scary.
Oh yeah.
Oh, sure.
Which one?
And DePaul. And
DePaul?
now
Oh,
it's
yeah.
multi-million dollars.
It was on the way down, yeah.
Yeah.
When I was there in
It's
the
amazing how
'60s, that was a
Chicago's
very
changed.
very seedy area. Immediately, you didn't wander much beyond the boundaries of the school buildings.
You,
in
you
those
could
days.
have bought the whole block at that time for what you pay for one condo.
Now, yeah.
Well, the same thing
Isn't
with
it amazing
Wrigley,
how it's
so-called
changed?
Yeah, it is. It really
so-called
is.
Wrigleyville is the same way. You could have bought any building in the place for
Right.
under $10,000.
Even the ballpark.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
we
now,
lived
you
there.
know-
I had a little house we bought for $40,000, and when it became Wrigleyville, it sold for $450,000, and they tore it down and built a mini mansion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At some future aldermanic election, they ought to ask every voter, what do you call the neighborhood you live in? And see how rigid some of those
Well,
boundaries
there
are.
was an
For
article-
example, within Norwood Park, there's a section, I think it likes to call itself Gladstone. I'm not sure if that's in your book.
Yeah, I think
And
so.
so, Gladstone Bakery of some note.
Yeah,
Yeah.
on Mohawk
Oh,
Avenue.
that's
There's a
farther
couple
east.
Gladstone. There was a Gladstone.
We got a break.
It's gone now. They're
Okay.
out of there.
Well, excuse us, please. We'll be right back after these messages of interest and importance.
Can you hang around?
How are the tires on your vehicle? Do you need motor oil? Or transmission fluid? Or power steering fluid? How about antifreeze? What about the wiper blades? Are they in good, sharp condition? Is the washer fluid in your tank full? How good is your battery? Do you need to replace light bulbs? Well, the place to pick up all these items is at Berkeley Auto Supply, 5237 St. Charles Road in Berkeley, Illinois. Stop in and see Tom, and he will get any part or supply you might need for your vehicle. He has every tool, part, or supply you might need, from the front bumper to the rear bumper, from the top of the roof to the bottom of the chassis. You can call Tom at area code 708-544-8350. And they are located at 5237 St. Charles Road in Berkeley, Illinois. Tom's hours are Monday to Friday, 8 o'clock in the morning until 8 o'clock in the evening. On Saturdays, he's there from 8 o'clock in the morning until 6 o'clock in the evening. And he's even open on Sundays from 10 o'clock in the morning until 3 o'clock in the afternoon. That's Berkeley Auto Supply, 5237 St. Charles Road in Berkeley, Illinois. He is just east of Wolf Road and west of Mannheim Road, about 2 miles on the south side of the street. You can call 708-544-8350 for parts, tools, and supply. That's Berkeley Auto Supply, 708-544-8350, and he's located at 5237 St. Charles Road in Berkeley, Illinois.
Now back to our special edition of Meet the Chicago Historians. Jack?
Special?
Yeah.
I thought you meant spatial.
Either way.
No, we got a full house. Full
Spatial?
house.
Yeah.
Spatial, special.
Spatial episode.
Can we get back to Mary? Can you stay with us a little longer? You're just beginning to scratch the surface, I think. Judging by all the questions we had during the off session. Okay, let's go. What do we got?
I had a little list. I put a little list on how it, the neighborhoods in the book, and then also how it's got its name, which I thought was very much fun
Okay,
to find out.
sure.
So, do you know why Edison Park got its name?
Edison Park.
Named for Tom Edison.
Named for Alexander Graham Bell.
And
They call it the Village of Lights at one point?
Yes, that's very good. The developers, when they first developed it, had electric lights when they first came out, and they were all excited, so they call it the electric suburb or something, a village of lights or something.
What about
And
Bridgeport?
they asked Edison themselves if they could give it his permission, and he, of course, said yes.
Yeah, he was.
Not that he ever
egocentric.
visited there, I don't
No, I don't think
I
so.
think
What about-
he was very egocentric.
Probably he probably ate it up.
What about Bridgeport? Was there a bridge or a port
Yes.
in
Yes.
Bridgeport? Or
Yes, there was.
Like
ports.
Portage Park.
Well,
That was
Portage
also-
Park was a portage area.
Yeah,
Along
But
Irving.
Bridgeport, the canal,
Mhm.
and there was an area there near a lock where they had to do it, and so they named the town Bridgeport because they had to take the things off the boats and go on the other side of the canal. So
Yeah, the
they
port.
called it a port. That's how
they
got
called
the
that a
name.
port. So
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
a
how it got
portage.
the port name. So
and there was a bridge involved with it.
yeah,
so-
over the canal.
Okay.
more or
It
less,
was,
over
it was
the
a
locks.
portage. It was a portage across the.
The portage is
road.
where they had to walk the canoes across some dry land. isn't it?
Yeah,
Right.
that's where Portage
whatever
Park got
whatever
its
it was,
name.
you had to walk it. Yeah.
It was east of the barge canal.
Yeah, the old Chicago portage ran along that
Yeah,
same
yeah.
area.
Yeah.
Is that what you're
That
thinking
That was the
about?
secondary portage. The primary portage was through Mud Lake.
Yeah,
up on the
that's where
south
Mud
side.
Lake
Yeah.
went.
Yeah, so there was
It's
actually two
south.
portages that most people don't even realize there was a secondary portage. You know.
Yeah, there was in Portage Park. There was a trail.
got-
A
yeah,
lot of
mhm.
the trails actually were portage areas.
You see some Highlander on Milwaukee Avenue just
Yeah.
north of Irving. It's
Yeah, the other question
Yeah,
always
Irving
comes
was
up
the
that's real
portage
interesting for somebody who's a history buff is what was the original name of Irving Park? The West Plank Road.
Oh, the
Oh, you're-
street. Oh, yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
Wait a minute now. Ogden Avenue was Plank,
Plank
Road at one
Road,
time
yeah.
also.
Yeah.
Plank
Yeah,
Road.
that was
And
a
then-
Am I right?
different.
And then
they
east to
each
western used to be called Graceland.
It was Graceland, yeah.
And for
And
many years
before
it was
that, it
Oak
was-
Park Boulevard. I
Yeah.
remember Oak Park Boulevard.
That
as
was
a kid.
never official, I don't believe.
I think
And a lot of people called it that, but I don't know if it was ever official.
On Ogden Avenue, west of Harlem Avenue, on the south side, there is a motel that is still called the Plank Road Inn.
Very
Yeah.
good.
Well, that was the same thing with a
Now
lot
that's
of.
in what, Riverside?
That would be. I'm not sure. I think that's probably on the Lions side. Riverside,
Lions,
I
that'd be
think,
Lions
is
over
is
there.
north,
okay.
and
It's-
Lions is
yeah,
south of
but
it.
That
west
was-
of Harlem.
Yeah,
it's,
but it's
yeah.
west of it, just slightly, just
Yeah.
a short
There were-
distance west
yeah,
of Harlem.
They used
The
the
Plank Road
roads.
Inn.
Yeah.
There was also a story about Milwaukee and Alston Avenue. I think Milwaukee was Plank Road, and they tried to
Toll.
charge toll,
Toll.
and somebody decided, the hell with this stuff, and we're going to go and make
went
a
around it or something.
went around it and create west. Yeah, it's unusual the fact that Alston is the only street that ends and starts and ends in the same
Right.
street.
Same street.
Milwaukee.
Oh, Milwaukee.
But I've been told
Um,
that there was like a toll booth on Elston Avenue.
Yeah, there's a
too.
Oh,
story
yes.
in my book about that toll
Amos
booth. And,
Yeah, I couldn't
Amos.
remember which way it went,
you're
but
very
one way or
good.
the other.
Yeah.
Does
and
anyone
how
know-
he was killed and nobody even knew.
Yeah, somebody.
solved the
Anyway,
case.
we're not too happy with him.
Yeah, they weren't. He was
Does anyone,
willing.
does anyone know who or what who Elston was?
Bob Elson?
No,
I
not
remember
him.
Bob Elson,
Not him over.
the commander.
Street.
But Elston, anybody know what the name
There
of the
was,
street
there was
was?
Yeah,
a merchant,
it's-
probably.
Yeah, his name was Daniel Elston, and I don't know exactly what he was. Famous
So there was an
No,
Elston
yeah,
for
yeah.
whom it's named.
There's something.
That's a good point.
I'll tell you an interesting little thing too. Well, if you go to the corner of what now would be Armitage and Ashland, etc., and there's a big railroad station there. It's called Clybourne Junction. Well, Clybourne Avenue is east of the river, but Cortlandt Street was known as Clybourne Place at one time. So the railroad took the name from Clybourne Place.
Oh,
The railroads don't change their names.
Yeah.
You know, the city does.
Yeah.
But so the city went from Clybourne Place to Clybourne Junction.
Oh, it's just like
And I was going to say, and then what's his name? Clybourne lived there, you know. And
Good number.
by the way, I just want to mention one thing. A couple of my daughters are involved in racing, you know, and jogging and all that. And there's a historian who goes along on the tours, and they will go every couple of blocks and stop.
oh
They'll
yeah.
point out a building, or they just did something called Vessels and Trestles or something.
Forgot
And they
Chicago.
started in
that's it.
Old Town and North and Wells. And they actually went on Goose Island. They went over the bridge. There's a railroad bridge there. Came right back. And they went around the river, you know, and they're pointing out different things. So
It's
it's
fun to do that kind
that's
of
fun,
thing, isn't
yeah.
it?
the North Branch of the river used to be a little bit more of a commuter type of thing because they used to bring coal barges up the North Branch for the Edison plant on California and Addison. But the other one was that a lot of people don't know about was the railroad that was on Sunnyside, and that lasted about 20 years, and it started out with Wisconsin Central, I believe, started the first short run from Mayfair yards to the Franklin Park yards, and it broke. And the Panic in '93.
I still
a lot of
remember
things
that
went
one, yeah.
Yeah, Kenny can tell you all about that one.
1993.
1993.
Yeah, that one too.
But by the way, Mary, you probably found out the railroads were putting tracks down everywhere,
Yeah.
illegally. And the classic had to be when the Tribune sold actually the rights to Wrigley Field, and they wanted to pick up the little street to the extreme west of the park, which is Seminary Avenue. So they went to the railroad. It was Union Pacific, I think, at the time. And they spent $80,000, and then took over the street. And they found out the railroad didn't own the street. They put tracks down there. They had to spend another, I don't know, $125,000 for the city of Chicago.
They threw in the Brooklyn Bridge as part of the deal.
Yeah.
Oh, I think it was also the one that's downtown under the streets too that they threw in there.
So, the maps. In fact, I have a son who is a fire chief, and he loved, of course. Fire chiefs now practically are citywide, although he has a district, and but he's downtown, so he goes as far south as 57th Street, as far north as like about Belmont Avenue, because he's got the outer drive and he can make good time. So he's studying streets all the time, and
One interesting thing about the streets is the diagonal streets. Most of them were all Indian trails.
Indian trails, yeah.
Right. The Indian Trail started out because of the animal tracks.
How?
They used to follow the animals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Red knows all about that.
And just the bridges. How
Remember the Bugs Bunny
bridges on
cartoon? Animal twacks. Twain twacks.
I thought I saw a wabbit.
I thought I saw a wabbit.
Anyway, what else? We touched on everything, or your book now is available, and it was published this year, or?
Yes, just this July.
So
and it's available on Amazon and Barnes and Noble.
And what about from you?
Oh, sure.
But, Barnes and Noble has
I
it, and
did
Amazon has it. So
with
that pretty well covers it.
And
We got some copies here right now, folks, and I have an autographed copy.
Yeah, I see one here too, which I did not pay for, and I'd like to pay for.
It's really good. It's real good light reading in one sense. It's also like when you want to look something up, and good reference, I guess.
It has to be light.
Yeah, that's how I wanted it to be.
Yeah.
I didn't
Lots of
want it
pictures,
to
you
be
mean?
academic.
Nicely indexed, Mary. I mean, you can look up
Yes,
there. Yeah.
they did a really nice
Good.
job. It's published by History Press, and they did a nice job setting up the contents. And
It should go right next to your Chicago Encyclopedia and your what else? History of the Haymarket, and what else we have?
Haymarket.
Haymarket, yeah.
Haymarket. Is
And
that
the
the same
lady
thing as
that-
Labor Day?
No.
Well, that's your annexation.
That's where it started.
the lady that helped write the encyclopedia came out with a smaller version of just the neighborhoods.
Ms. Durkin. I
Collected
believe it is.
speeches of
and
Mayor
Durkin.
Daley.
And Keating and
And
Durkin.
Keating.
Understandable speeches.
It's called Chicago Neighborhoods and Suburbs.
So
But this is only city.
go to Amazon.com or Barnes and Noble, and it's a very, very informative.
Make it a
Pound for pound.
great Christmas gift.
Here you go.
Yeah,
Remember K-Tel Records?
Stocking
great,
stuffer.
great maps.
They were good Christmas gifts too.
Give
Okay.
them the name and the
Yeah,
author's name.
Yeah. Okay. The Chicago 77, a community area handbook by Mary Zangs, who is our guest today, a guest panelist. I hope we can have you back sometime. Not that
and
you have to
thank
leave
you
now.
so much
Hope you
for
stay for the end,
having
but
me. It's
but,
been really fun.
anyway,
It's nice
and
meeting
it's
all of you.
Thank you.
it's a trade paperback. You call this, don't you? The
That's
trade.
right. Sure.
It's a good quality not as expensive as a hardcover, and it's not as flimsy as a little pocketbook.
Yeah.
Want to see it? Buy one. Sorry, we're not on television. So anyway, we're going to move on a little bit. We just had a few days ago the notification, and with no news now, the death of Jane Byrne, at 81 years old, from our first and only female mayor of Chicago. And I'm sure we have some. Everybody will have a little something to relate, and we're going to start with Bill Kugelman, who's been sitting here patiently waiting for this to come up. Right, Bill?
Kugelman.
He brought cake with him
Yeah,
today.
I guess so. I guess so.
So, your experiences, or
First of all, Jane came up, through the ranks, so to speak. And when she ran for mayor, or she thought she was going to run for mayor, she gave the fire and police the promise that one of her first actions as mayor would be to give us a contract, and this was due to her meeting with the original Mayor Daley, who always told us, to our face, by the way, that if anything happens to me, fellas, you better get it in writing. You better get a contract. And Jane followed that, and she said, yes, she says, one of my first things in office will be to give you guys your contract. And Frank Mascari was president of the union. Bill Reddy was the vice president. I was one of the trustees, and we believed her, and we backed her. We drove her around with her police bodyguards. We all believed, we all contributed, and she was elected. We didn't start that snowstorm, but we were glad it came, because Mike Balandic was a big nothing, Canaryville cop.
Yeah.
But anyway,
not Canaryville.
He had to go. Well,
from
Bridgeport, Canaryville.
Yeah, Canaryville get angry with that one.
And we were so glad. In fact, we threw her a party and invited her to all of our retirement parties and so forth. And Jane was very good to us, but she balked at a contract. She had Marty Oberman, who I was very close to, being that he was the legal counsel of the Illinois Racing Board, and good guy.
Alderman also?
Alderman. And Marty wrote up a grievance for public servants, police, fire, and so forth. And that was supposed to appease us. Well, it was not going to appease us. And we had meetings. We brought in a representative from the International Firefighters, and who then recommended an attorney, J. Dale Berry, who had just come out of a strike in Normal with the Normal firemen, and a couple of those guys went to jail, and they eventually won most of what they went on strike for. And Dale, coming out of that win, came up to us, and we hired him. We hired him over our regular attorney, who was not too pleased with us hiring Dale. Dale was kind of a hippie type guy. He came from the University of Michigan, and a character. wore a
He fit
cowboy
in.
hat, and cowboy boots, and he was a real character, right? Right out of the comics. And but no one in the legal business, the labor business, would mess with him. They all knew that he was a very ballsy guy. Anyway, we had a strike vote, and most of the Bridgeport guys, the 11th Warders, were against that, were against striking, and but we had an overwhelming vote anyway, and that left the door open. Jane she didn't give up.
Bill, your strike wasn't just one. It was like in several stages. It was an authorization, and it wasn't over just like instant, right?
That's what it was. It was a strike authorization.
Over a month period of time, right? 3 months or something.
And a couple of months later,
Yeah.
we finally, after having and being ignored, in fact, by the administration, we knew that we were going to have to go on strike. My son was working then with Ken Little.
Yeah.
He had gotten a job up there through politics in the fire alarm office, and he called me one day and he said, "Dad," he said, I can't take it up here." He says, "My God, we can't even go out for lunch, or we can't do anything." And he was an outdoor kid anyway. He says, and are you guys going to go on strike? And I said, yeah, it looks like it. Why? Are they talking? He says, that's all they're doing is talking about it and getting ready for the strike action. And he resigned. He quit that job, which was a very good job. Anyway, he quit, and that kind of gave us an idea that, yeah, they're getting ready. And the next thing we know, there were the bosses were going out and asking the men in the field, "Are you going to go on strike? Are you going to go on? How many of you guys are going on strike?" Well, the guys were not. We were pretty well organized. The guys were not going to say, "Oh no, or they weren't going to say, "Oh yes, yes." Well, most of them said, "No, no, no." So they went back to the administration and said, "Oh no, these guys are saying no, they're not going to go on strike. Oh, they wouldn't go on strike," which was just the opposite. The guys knew what to say. We tried to have meetings at the Bismarck Hotel, and they just ignored us. So it was right after Christmas. It was about the 27th, 28th of December.
What year is this, 79 or 80?
This is 79.
Mm-hmm.
Frank Mascari announced that Bill Kugelman, was going to be the strike chairman of the strike committee. And I put together a committee, and several days later, I was told that I was fired. I was terminated.
By the city?
By the city.
Okay.
And I was a captain at that time. And I said, okay. A high-ranking official of the fire department told the mayor, "You just made the biggest mistake of your life, because that guy is very well known and very well respected. And anybody that was on the fence is going to jump off the fence now on their side." And that was true. I called for the strike then. We weren't getting anywhere. "Frank, we gotta go on strike." I know. when are you gonna do it? And I said, okay, let's go the 8th of February. I don't remember what day that was, but we heard that one of our people told the administration that we were going to go on strike on the 8th. So I called it off. And one of my snitches told me who the guy was, and he was castigated and made it then on February 14th at 05:15 in the morning. We had 97% of the fire department out on the street and the paramedics. And that was, I mean, everybody just had the fill of being ignored. We of course, and this was all with the guidance of this representative of the International and Dale Berry, the attorney. They knew what to do. You know, I was, you know, I was with them all the time. Hey, how about this? How
The
about this? How
representative
about
would be
this?
Michael Lass. was
Mike
that?
Lass.
I remember
right.
I met him several times.
Right,
you know,
right.
At the,
Another character.
he's gone now, isn't he?
Yes, he is. Yes, he is.
He, I met him out at the state convention at Rosemont and out at down Springfield twice. I remember.
When he left the International Firefighters, he went to work for the Teamsters. I think it was 705. And we took these guys out, and Jane Byrne, you know, we heard was horrified. How could they do this? How could they back me, and then how could they do this? She had a lot of bad advice. One of them giving her advice was that moron husband of hers, Jay McMullen.
Don't mince your words, Bill.
Oh boy!
How do you
Boy,
really feel?
What did you really think of him?
Oh God, was he terrible? And I think she finally knew it too. But anyway, make a long story short, because those were the long days.
It's too late for that.
Yes,
Yeah.
I know. We went up to see her, and her exact where there was Bill Reddy, Frank Mascari, Moon Mascari, and myself, and her exact words to us were, "You're gonna get your bleeping contract, but you're gonna have to work for it." And that's what we did. We went out for 23 days working, and when we went back, and that was all, oh boy, it was a tough 23 days. When we went back with a written contract. We got our manpower, which was the prime reason we went on strike, to have manpower. I was a captain of a company, and some days I had a driver and a fireman, 3 people, in the middle of Western and Division, and I have pictures of that too.
3 people.
3 people,
You kidding,
myself,
aren't you?
the officer, and the driver who stayed with the rig, and one other guy.
That's it.
And some of those guys were candidates that didn't know anything.
Oh,
That's-
brand new, you mean? Like,
that was
okay.
that was our manpower, and that was going on all over the city. We got that. We also, from that whole strike, the state of Illinois got a collective bargaining bill for all police, fire, and a lot of people don't realize that. The police in Chicago were well treated by Jane. I liked her. I knew what we were doing, and I knew, that we were working. That's what she meant. You're going to have to work for it. And she was very good with the police. I thought a lot of her, and in fact, Frank Moon Muscari and I backed her in her second bid. We tried to get the firemen, the rest of them, and there was just bad feelings to this day. To this day, there is, but the guys just didn't realize how to play that game.
No.
And that's what it
Could not.
was.
No.
They couldn't understand that.
No.
We had a lot of guys scabbing the job, and we also had a lot of guys that came on the job, and some of them were bad people, and some of them were good people.
During the
Just
strike,
like
they
we
came
had.
on.
During the strike, yeah. And
We had-
like anybody else, you got the good and the bad.
Sure. Hold that thought. I think
Sure.
we're ready for a little break here.
Okay.
Now, for another brief intermission. You've been listening to Meet the Chicago Historians.
We'll get on. We'll get on.
Well, friends, Old Man Winter is just right around the corner. And now is the time to think about your roof, siding, and gutters on your home or place of business. So be sure the roof, siding, and gutters are in good shape. You don't want mold or mildew in your attic or crawl space, and you don't want drip, drip, drip on the ceilings in your rooms, or have walls damaged by a leaky gutter or bad siding. So don't have double expense. Sooner or later, you're going to have to get them repaired. So call Best Brothers Roofing, Siding, and Gutters at 630-616-1359. Mike Besch will drive over in his shiny red truck with ladders on top and Best Brother Roofing signs on the doors. Mike will look over your roof, siding, and gutters and give you an estimate, and then go from there. So don't have double expense. Call Best Brothers Roofing for a free estimate at 630-616-1359. That's Best Brothers Roofing, Siding, and Gutters at 630-616-1359. Call today for a free estimate.
Now, back to our show.
Well, hello, everybody. We're back. Bill Kugelman was giving us some inside history of dealing with the late Mayor Byrne, and he was at the time, of course, with the Firefighters Union, Local 2, correct? Local
Right.
2?
Yeah,
And
yes.
and of the International Brotherhood or what are they?
International Association
Association of Firefighters. Yeah, I want to get that right.
Yeah.
And
Brotherhood.
let's continue now.
Okay.
Where were we?
Well, I completely moved into our headquarters of the union. I think I went home every 3 or 4 days.
Where was that now?
We were at Randolph and 54 West Randolph.
Okay, like around the Woods Theater.
Woods Theater,
building,
right
no.
behind, yeah. And the only ones there were my dad and my son. The three of us lived there, and my dad's a retired fireman. He couldn't believe what was going on. Anyway, we won the strike. A lot of people say we lost. Well, we didn't. We won. We won it for collective bargaining in the state of Illinois. A lot of people don't realize that. A lot of the coppers, in fact, the guy that just lost his bid on the FOP, he came in and he said, we're the first ones that had a contract
Who's
in
that?
the city.
This young guy?
Yeah.
He's probably the first
Yeah.
cop who had a contract.
No,
Yeah.
I know that wasn't true. Tom knows that wasn't true.
Yeah.
What's that?
We looked at guys saying the police had the contract before.
No.
Yeah, no, I know that, but he said that.
Yeah, I know you know.
I had met him and talked to him. I said, no, you didn't. They said if it wasn't for us, you wouldn't have a contract.
That's
and,
right.
And we had the first one that came out because it had to go through the city council, and it had to go through the legal system. But anyway,
During that period, Bill, I remember now how these Powells and administrations get talking out of both sides of their mouths, because one thing they want to do this for you, at the same time they retained a famous world anti-union law firm of Seaforth, Shaw, Fairweather, and Geraldson.
exactly.
And they saw all the propaganda was out, the rumors would come out. We went through the same thing
Yeah.
with our later.
Yeah.
So
Ted, I can't think of his last name. He was the big guy with the police and fire with that law firm.
Head,
Ted something. I can't think of
Policeman?
his last name. No,
Policeman?
no,
Oh.
an attorney.
attorney.
Yeah, with them. A person you'd want to despise, you know. But anyway, we got that. We had some meetings. I had a meeting with the fire commissioner, and Frank
would that be?
Muscari was in jail.
Who would that be? What commissioner was that?
Albright. No, Albright.
Oh, was it going on?
Dick Albright.
Hmm.
And we went in there, and I made a form, a request that when we went back to work, we would go back little by little. I knew damn well that there's going to be a lot of problems between the strikers and the non-strikers. We, come on. I never on strike before. It's a union guy, but this is all new. And I went in and presented this. Moon was a little perturbed. Don't put anything in writing. Don't put anything in writing. I said, Frank, I have to. And these comments were between me and jail. Frank was in jail with his back to the wall, and he said, "We have to do something. We got to do something here." And I called for a meeting. We had our meetings at the what is it? The big meetings down at the stockyards,
Amphitheater.
the amphitheater, and we filled that place up. And of course,
Yeah, nobody was working. That's
nobody was working, so we filled it up. They wanted to know, when are we going to go back to work? We got the contract now. No, we didn't. Not yet.
yeah.
It had to go through the process.
Well, even then,
And who walked in? We got this whole thing set up. Who walked in? No, jogged in, but Jesse. Jesse, typical Jesse. He just had to wait until everybody got in, and here he comes in, and that everybody's clapping and that, because we had to politically keep all factions happy. So we had to keep Jesse happy too. What we did then, I came out with a symbol, B.O.B., Brotherhood of the Barrel. I was home with my dad. My dad said, "What's the matter? You look down." I says, "I am." I says, "I think we're losing." This was about 17, 18 days into the strike. Things are really getting hot. People are going back in. People are coming, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
And I says, I got to do something, Pa. And I don't know. We just came up with the Brotherhood of the Barrel because it was cold out. It was February, and everybody was burning wood. And in the barrels, they were getting the 55-gallon drums and so Brotherhood of the Barrel was born that day, and we went back to the getting back to the amphitheater. The guys were down. Moon is in jail. Our hero, the guy for our time, is in jail. What are we going to do? And get them all in there. Nobody knew this. I kept it, under my hat. A friend of mine worked for the phone company for Local 9, and I introduced everybody at the meeting at the amphitheater, and I said, "And fellas, we got somebody else we want you to listen to," and it was a phone hookup from the county jail to a system there of amps, and it was Frank talking to him, and they were just amazed. They were just, oh man! I mean, you could just see them out there. It just brought blood back into their head, and stick together. That brought everybody back together again. And they all went, "How the hell did you do that?" And then I said, "I can't tell you because the guy on Local 9 will get fired."
Yeah.
But anyway, that's what happened there. And Frank came out. He came out of jail, and we got this whole thing going. And Jane was, a different lady. We knew what we had to do, Frank and I knew what we had to do, and Bill Reddy, God rest them souls now. I'm the only one left from that that whole thing. Yeah. And funny story, that was in 1980. In 1982, I'm still with the union. They aren't. Here's a guy that took us through a strike. First strike in Chicago, and he's voted out of office.
Yeah, they didn't.
They didn't.
That sounds like Winston Churchill.
But
well, I was going to say, how did the mayor react then once the contract was signed?
She was fine. She was
no
fine.
No problem.
No problems at all. No.
It seemed to. I'm sure it didn't go smooth, but
it didn't go smooth out in the field. No, there was a lot of problems. But. You would mention to retired guys, my dad, some of his friends would get together, and he'd say, "Well, how did you do, Bill? How?" I said, "Well, I lost about $65,000 in pay.
Yeah.
Judge Susan Gitzendonner put me back to work, and she told the mayor, you better put him back to work, because if he comes before me like he should, he's going back to work."
Yeah.
So I went back to work.
Can I interrupt one thing?
Sure.
You were up for promotion to battalion
Yes,
chief,
I was.
and they turned you down.
Yes.
I think that was probably the first and only time.
Yeah, a white guy.
Yeah. Well, I just.
Yeah.
Are you a white guy? I didn't notice.
I don't think.
Pardon? I didn't know she was a white guy.
I don't think that entered into it. It was just.
No, it was strike.
We were in a post-racial period.
Related, and I thought, how can they keep, the guys on number one on the list?
Yep.
Yep.
Well,
and that's a big promotion.
Her in 1982, we had the convention here, the International Firefighters Convention. We before the strike, we had bid for it, and we won it.
Yeah.
And now we're all wondering, oh God, what are we going to do now?
Yeah.
It's 1982. Feelings were still hot, and there was 3 of us on the committee. Myself for the convention. Myself, John Hurling, who, God bless him, he just died here a month or so ago.
I didn't know
you didn't
that.
know that, Ken?
No.
Yeah. And Jack Gallipo, who was a former president of Local 2.
Yeah.
And we get together, and to run a thing like this, an international convention
this
here,
is a big thing.
we got to have the cities. Jane had gotten this brush fire bill, Blair from California as the fire commissioner. He was absolutely useless, to us. Didn't know anything about Chicago. I said, guys, we got to go up and see the mayor. Oh, God, what do you think? Well, he says, we got to do it. We got to have the city on our side.
Yeah.
We're going to have people from all over the country, internationally here.
Yeah.
And so we go up there, made an appointment, and we're ushered into her office. Before, she had a real wide desk. The three of us sat there facing the desk, and then she came in. And Mayor, how are you? Fine. Everything was very cordial. And we laid out what we were going to do. And her finance guy was there, and she would look at him. Can we do that? Yeah, we can do that. Okay. Things went along very well, and I could feel the emotion in Gallipo and Hurling. I could just, because they hadn't dealt with her before, they always dealt with the lawyers of the city, but I could just feel the emotion in them. It was getting to the point where they may be urinating in their pants pretty soon. And we get done with our presentation, and she said, "Okay, we've got that done." She says, "But let me tell you something." And I thought those two guys were going to faint right then. She gets up from her desk and she points at me and she says, "I'm telling you, Kugelman, if I see any of your people out there hanging from those light posts saying Jane Burns sucks, I'm coming after you." Well, she's laughing, I'm laughing. These two guys don't know what the hell is going on. But that's the kind of relationship I had with her, and it was funny. And I tell you what, she came to the convention. It went off well. She gave us everything. Everything was top shelf. It was really one of the best conventions around.
Yeah.
If you remember that, yeah. And after that, I would call her every Valentine's Day and wish her well. And
oh, I get it. Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
Now I understand. No. It was the day of the strike, right?
Yes. And I had no idea that it was Valentine's Day when I called for the 14th.
Oh.
For some reason, I'm looking at the calendar and the 14th. Yeah, okay, 14th. And Moon was the one that told me about it. He says, "Oh, you're sending her a Valentine's card, huh?" And that's what went around.
Like the St. Valentine's Day massacre.
Right.
What day did that happen?
I don't recall. Really
But the other thing you got to look at if you didn't have the convention, the bad name of Chicago would be all over the states too, because of the fact.
Oh, sure.
Politically,
it'd be. The rest of the fire departments in the state of Illinois and the police, the FOP lodges, they thanked us that we went out whenever we'd get out there. And we never did anything like this.
Yeah.
Hell, I didn't do it. I worked for Ironworkers 63 and 1, and who the hell goes on strike?
I don't know if anybody realized there was an Eddy City worker that was covered by a written contract.
No.
I came in 57. We're talking 80. Yeah. We're talking a long time.
Yep.
Without a contract.
My mother worked for Stuart Warner, and she was when they went union.
Yeah.
And she was a steward. They made her. She said, "Oh yeah, I'll be a steward." She didn't know anything about it.
Yeah.
My own mother.
She said they were so mad at her. They were calling her, spreading rumors that she was a lesbian and that she was stealing money and that just to keep
the pot boiling.
Yeah.
We did the same thing. When I was in working for the water department, we didn't have a union, and it got to the point where there's so many politicians running around that you got to out there got to vote on unionizing, and the union representation was good, but the politician population went down.
Funny you should mention. I was talking to one of my morning coffee clutch guys, and he was with the Water Department. They lost a whole bunch of comp time, just nothing gone all of a
Oh,
sudden.
I never had that problem.
No, well, he did.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
but the
They liquidated those hours.
oh, jeez, oh,
Tom?
no,
I'm through.
Yeah. Can't take it anymore.
they had their, you know, what the problem with the city was that if they wanted to put another politician into the ranks, they'd fire somebody, and they would fire them on a list of rules that nobody ever knew what they were until they used them. And then they would fire under rule so-and-so, you were terminated because so-and-so. And they would put a politician.
Well,
in
I had mentioned that this alderman Oberman came up with a phony, I call it a phony grievance procedure. When I started in with the unionization bit, one of the first things they did was take me off my company and transfer me to a almost an all-black company, Engine 19.
You went to
Where's that now?
19.
And I went to 19,
Where did you look?
35th and
Calumet.
Calumet.
Still there.
And, yeah, still there. And I just thought, well, this is part of the game.
Yeah.
You know, I always knew that was the punishment for a white officer, is you send him to a black company.
Yeah.
And I went there. I knew those guys, you
Yeah.
know, Robinson and the rest of them, and that, and
Yeah.
I got along good with them.
Yeah.
And in fact, they put in a class of white. Or they had a class in '77 of black, mostly black guys, maybe 50%. Well, what they did, one of the bosses asked me, he says, you know, we know that you'll be able to handle this, Bill. Oh, yeah, sure. They sent all white guys to 19 out of that class and took the black guys out and sent them other places.
Yeah.
And I was the captain of the engine, the lieutenant of the truck, very nice guy, long, and he had trouble with his feet all the time. And he's over there and he's writing up the journal, and what you do is put everybody's name in there and that, and he's over there. I says, "What's the matter, Lou? What's going on? What are you complaining about? Your feet hurt?" No, he says, "No." He says, why don't these white guys have names like Smith and Jones and that?" He says, "They're all Polacks." I says, "I can't, take me a half hour to write their names over here." And I started laughing.
John, what did we do to get signed to 48th and Wabash? Bill, at least you did something.
It was all favoritism. wasn't it?
We were at 48th and Wabash.
Yeah.
We went on.
Yeah.
Boy, were you lucky.
Yeah,
well,
right.
what was funny about that was the fact when I started working for the city, a Republican, and all the Southside Irish, untouchable. I got along better with the blacks than I did with the Southside Irish. Was
Me
funny.
too. So anybody have any other anything they'd like to say
Just wonder,
about?
Bill, how did the city muddle through during the strike? Luckily, no big fire emergencies, and then the paramedics were out.
I
How did
had
things
very
go?
good. Frank Moon and Bill Reddy and myself went to the University of Michigan. They have courses on how to handle the media, and for just this type.
Yeah, don't
thing.
talk to them.
And
Amazing.
and we did. No,
Yeah.
you can't.
Yeah,
You
I
can't
know.
do that.
I know.
You can't do that because then the city will take over, and you got to tell them the truth. You got to bring it out. So we did that to find out, and I got along good with them. You know, very good with them, and Ann Keegan, Mike Flannery, like I say, a lot of these guys, they were good to us, and I would let them come up to the office and see what was going on. They then would give me the information that they see out there. There were rigs out there with mannequins in them. One guy driving. Fire trucks parked in the firehouse with mannequins. Like if you'd walk by, oh yeah, look at. What do you mean they're on strike? They're in
Yeah.
there.
Well,
And
didn't they hire some people?
Yes, they
Yes.
hired all the guys from
Eight-
19 that were on the list.
860. My son was one of them.
Yeah, over 800.
Oh, was
Yeah.
it that many? I
And
didn't
that,
think it was that
oh
many.
yeah,
Wow.
Yeah,
we
this
were
is-
that short, Tom,
Yeah.
to begin with. And I was trying to get back before we went to break. This judge, and I can't think of his name right now. We wanted those 800 just. I used the word fire, but that wasn't. Take them off the job and hire them the way they were on the list. Most of them would get back on, at that time, but just do it the right way, And if the guy wasn't on the list, don't hire him.
Yeah.
There were a lot of guys that just came off the street. One guy, and he turned out to be a pretty decent guy, had been fired for drinking in the academy when he was in the academy. And the strike
He didn't hide it.
You can't wait till you get to the house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got to pop a can in the academy.
The
Come on.
guy came on during the strike. What the hell? I got fired, and they're hiring any. Boom, he came on. And a lot of those guys were fired for drugs or for one thing or another. They once they got started vetting them. But those guys are on there, and
I was going to say my personal thing with my son being being hired at that time. One of the things we talked about was that this group, I think I'm coming up with a number of 864, but I don't know what it was.
something like that.
They now have something in common because they all got hired within 2-week periods.
Oh yeah. So they're all retiring now.
Well, I was going to say
Lot of-
the other thing is that they can form a very active political group. For example, if you want to pass something and the 800, somebody represents them and says, "No, we don't want that." You got 800 people against you all the time.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
it was.
No, we wanted them just, let them go and then hire them in
Yeah.
the numerical order that
Yeah.
we had, but not the guy that wasn't on the list.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
I can't think of the name of that the 9106 list or
I
19
don't
whatever
know.
it was. My son was on there too. And
Yeah.
One thing I can recall from personal experience, I was back in the district then when the strike went down, and we were out at one or 2 days. I actually got an injury, so I didn't come back until maybe 2 or 3 days were left. But anyway, I was the house at 55th and Wabash or 54th and Wabash.
Yeah,
there?
right. Yeah,
Right near
61.
Butternut Bread was.
Yeah, you're right.
Anyway, not the day when I was there, but there was a fire south of there just a little bit, and the striking firemen selflessly hopped into rigs and went out and worked on it. And they got in trouble for that. So did the cops on detail,
Sure.
which makes no sense. But that goes to show you, even though the city would try to characterize this as being selfish and ignoring public safety, that was the spirit that was prevailing.
Yeah.
Nonetheless.
We had what we called the Silver Spanner strike. That came from Normal. They had it. And like I say, I was the captain of the company. I took my spanners. A spanner is a wrench, metal wrench, and I took it over to what the heck was the name of that place, Ken? Near 20's house there. It was the
Oh, where the
What-
what they do?
metal
Plating.
plating,
Yeah.
chrome plating.
Yeah,
And I knew the guy good. He had done a lot of stuff for
Where's
me.
20's house?
North Avian Troop by Fleet Management there.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. They used to work
Yeah.
the stars too, didn't they? The stars and badges and whatever,
Yeah.
the
Right.
shields.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't think of either.
Well, I went over there, Silver Spanner. I went over there with all our spanners, and I had them chrome plated. And we were there, and we had the guys came out with Moon's Goons because Jane said, "You got all of your goons out there." Well, bingo.
Yeah, there you go.
Moon's Goons. And they came out with T-shirts, Moon's Goons. I think I still got some. In a way, it was a lot of fun.
Just once in a
But
while,
there
someone
was some awful things going on, You know, we were told that our hospitalization was cut off, and we had I had a paramedic out of the at O'Hare that had a kid that was sick, and you know.
Well, isn't that typical, though, of that strike, anti-strike or anti-union sentiment that these companies have? They don't put anything in writing. I mean, they get the old whispering campaigns going on.
Oh, yeah.
You can't put into
absolutely.
That. And with that, I think we're just about ready for it. When we come back, Thanksgiving, our topic. At long last.
You've been listening to Meet the Chicago Historians, and we thank you for it. We'll be right back.
Look, you can see all the memories.
Exhibitors Carpet Service has changed their name to Carpet Warehouse at 4300 West Montrose Avenue in Chicago. Stop in at Carpet Warehouse at 4300 West Montrose Avenue, and the phone number there is area code 773-283-0100 for carpets in your living room, dining room, bedroom, den, family room, or even outdoor patio. Stop in for a great deal. Once again, Carpet Warehouse, 4300 West Montrose Avenue, phone number area code 773-283-0100 in Chicago. Remember, if you need a carpet for your living room, dining room, bedroom, den, family room, or even outdoor patio, stop in at 4300 West Montrose Avenue in Chicago, and that phone number once again, area code 773-283-0100. That's Carpet Warehouse, 4300 West Montrose Avenue. Stop in today for a real great deal.
Now back to our November 2014 program of Meet the Chicago Historians.
Thanks for everything you related to us personally, Bill. And I heard some of those stories before, and they're greater every time. And there's a little bit of history, folks. Now, was that the name of that place you did the plating? Hanson's?
No.
No. Okay,
No.
wrong one.
No.
Oh well. Well, we got to move on, though. Anybody have anything else?
You know what? What president made Thanksgiving Day a holiday?
Well,
Washington?
You can start with George Washington, who in 1789 he declared November the 26th to be the first national Thanksgiving Day and Thanksgiving for the Constitution. And then there were some subsequent presidents that followed it, but Jefferson didn't believe in presidents issuing proclamations. He said it was too much like the King of England issuing.
Boy, would he be out of step today.
So we didn't have a national declaration until Abraham Lincoln in 1863. And it's funny, we were talking about Lincoln with the funeral car. 2 days from now, today's the 17th, Lincoln delivered his Gettysburg Address on the 19th of November, 1863. And he also declared 1 week later, November 26th again, to be a national day of Thanksgiving. And since 1863, every president has followed that pattern. So we've had a national presidential proclamation every year since 1863. For many years, it was always the last Thursday in November.
The fourth Thursday.
No. It was always it was traditionally the last Thursday in November until FDR in 1939. Some merchants came to Franklin Roosevelt and said, the Christmas season officially begins on Thanksgiving Day. And Thanksgiving, the last Thursday in 1939 was going to be like the 29th or the 30th of November. They asked them if they could back it up 1 week. So FDR issued a proclamation moving Thanksgiving Day back 1 week, which led to a huge uproar because the president officially only declares the holiday for the District of Columbia and the possessions. Every governor has the option of following it. So what happened was most Democratic governors accepted Franklin Roosevelt's moving the date back a week. Many Republican governors were outraged, and they made the traditional date the last Thursday in 1939. Then there were cities where they had a Democratic mayor, and they didn't like the fact that so, for example, I think New York City, there was a Republican governor, there was a Democratic mayor of New York, LaGuardia. So they declared FDR's date, so there was complete chaos.
The more things.
And it
change,
continued
the
in
more they stay the
1940.
same.
FDR, again, moved it back. And if you ever see the movie Holiday Inn, you'll notice that they have this little cartoon.
Yes.
When they get to Thanksgiving Day, and they show
They
that
move
they
it
show
back and
they
forth.
show that the turkey bouncing back and forth, and people today probably don't know what that means.
No.
And it's because of the chaos in 39 and 40. That movie was made in 41. Finally, FDR looked into it and found there was no indication that moving his proclamation back 1 week had any impact on business. There was no indication that stores did any more business for the holidays with that proclamation. So he finally gave in, and they decided they were going to revert to the traditional format. But he left it up to Congress. And so Congress made a semi-compromise. Before FDR, it had been the last Thursday in November. Congress made it the fourth Thursday in November, which is what it is to this day. I think it's 5 years out of 7, the fourth Thursday is the last Thursday. But 2 out of every 7 years, there are 5 Thursdays in Thanksgiving. So that's kind of the FDR compromise. It didn't go back all the way to the last Thursday. But if you ever watch that movie Holiday Inn, that's an explanation for why that turkey is bouncing back and forth between the dates.
I've seen that, and they never understood it.
That was the reason for it, and it became a big and there were Republican governors who would issue proclamations saying they are going to stand by the traditions of our nation, and we are not going. So it reached a point where I think even the merchants gave in and said this is just not worth the problem that's causing.
No.
But so that's why we have it to this day, the fourth. And as you mentioned, I always say the saddest Thanksgiving Day the nation ever had was November the 22nd. Was in the Thanksgiving in 1963 because it came just a week after the assassination of John F. Kennedy, the previous Friday. And I can remember that Thanksgiving. I can remember just how somber everything was. It was not like a traditional Thanksgiving Day.
However, to make a slight joke out of that, the cartoon in Tribune of Broomhilda. It's Halloween. I'm late for Christmas shopping.
It's earlier every year.
Well, it's you look at it, it really does start
Now.
Halloween time, if not sooner.
Yeah.
Black Friday.
Yeah. Now you got October being or November being Black October or whatever,
Black Friday?
or Black Month.
If I could talk, another story I'd like to tell, because I wrote years ago. I used to write a column for our local newspaper, and one of my favorite columns was the column I did about Thanksgiving. There's an interesting aspect of Thanksgiving that most people are not familiar with, and that is that when we think of the Pilgrims and the first Thanksgiving, 1621. Many people don't know the backstory of it, and that is that the Pilgrims were part of actually a commercial enterprise. They had been backed by a group of London investors that were called the London Adventurers, and they were originally supposed to go to Virginia. The original destination of the Pilgrims was Virginia. The Mayflower was off course and winds up dropping them in Cape Cod, off Cape Cod, and the arrangement that they had with the London Adventurers was that the London Adventurers put up the money. The Pilgrims were going to go to the New World and do the work, and then after 7 years, they were going to divvy up the whatever profits there were going to be from this enterprise. And also the agreement was that everything would be held in common by the Pilgrims. So what you have is kind of a small experiment in what today we would call socialism or communism, although the terms really weren't used at that time. It was a complete disaster. The winter, of course, of 1620 to 1621 was horrible. Half of those that landed died. Half of the people of the original 100-odd people that arrived in the New World died in that horrible winter. They actually landed on December the 26th of 1620. They arrived November the 21st. They dropped anchor, but they stayed on board for about a month while they were reconnoitering and deciding what they were going to do. And when they tried this format of having everything in common, the land was all held in common. It was like everybody puts in their work. Well, you know what happened was that some people were working hard and some people weren't. And pretty soon the people who were working hard resented the fact that the people who weren't working hard or weren't working at all were going to get an equal share. In 1621, they had this Thanksgiving celebration because of in part because of the fact that the Indians had provided them with game and had taught them how to plant corn. So finally, Governor Bradford decided that this experiment in holding things in common was a fiasco, and they went back to the traditional English way of private property. And they severed the agreement with the London Adventurers. They bought them out. They bought out the investors for £1,800, and it took them a long time to pay that £1,800, which was today that doesn't sound like much, but in 1621, £1,800 was a lot of money. But the moral of the story is that from the very beginning, private enterprise was the way in America. They experimented with a form of socialism, and it was a disaster. And they decided to go back to private property.
The other aspect of that was the fact that when they moved farther west, they took on this aspect of ownership of property, and Indians didn't understand that.
No, that was foreign to them too, because they were nomadic.
So they were nomadic, and basically you didn't share, but it was sort of open space.
Right.
Yeah.
And some of your people still don't. We have trouble up in Wisconsin with these people that think that any property is theirs.
Well, this wasn't a matter of property. It was just a matter of the fact that it was open land. They didn't understand that.
Right. Fencing things off or saying this belongs to you.
So this created some of the wars that went on with the people, at that time too. It ended up with, James Thompson was one of the first surveyors that surveyed the, now as we know, the townships as we got there. It got to be all right until you got a little bit on the curvature of the earth, and they had a little bit of a
things don't match up, do they?
Yeah, and then of course then you had Norwood Park Township, which is only 3x3, where everything else in general is 6x6, except along the lake. Then it got to be another story. But
theoretically, a township should be 6 miles square, but not
36 square miles.
Quite a few of them are.
But you get a situation like along North Avenue, west of Western. You have two townships coming into Jefferson on one side, Cicero on the other. The main streets don't line up.
Yeah,
you probably found that in your, when you're doing
a little jog
maps.
there. Well, the other problem comes in there. The thing you have a jog when you come out going farther north here, especially on Nagel and all these other streets. They have a little central.
Yeah.
And the question always was why, and apparently it was because of the Indian boundary line. Everybody else said got different reasons for it, but one person said in a book St. Pascal's just put out their centennial book, and there they claimed it was because somebody wouldn't sell property. And that wasn't the truth of it. They didn't research properly because. But anyways, this is the main reason for it, and basically the Indian boundary is what started Dunning Farm and such, or the Poor Farm.
Hold it. The servants are bringing in the turkey now. The turkeys. Who would want a drumstick or some white meat?
Oh, we got a lot of turkeys around here.
Mary Zhang's our guest today. You had some items about Thanksgiving that. Tell us about. Yes.
Thanksgiving in Chicago.
Okay.
The first Thanksgiving Day parade was held in 1934. It was the State Street Council. All the retail men put it together, and that went on until 1968, when the city took it over when they ran out of money. The State Street Council ran out of money, so they did it until 1824, and McDonald's took it over for the next 5 years. In 1990, Brock's Candy took it over. 1998, Marshall Fields took it over.
Who?
Marshall Field.
Remember
Marshall
them?
Fields.
Good old Marshall Fields.
A name from the past, huh?
Yeah. And Target got in 1999, and since 2006 is back to McDonald's sponsoring it.
Huh.
And do you know who the mascot of the parade is called? It's Teddy Turkey. I never knew that. The first guy in the parade.
Couple of interesting things about Thanksgiving. One of the reasons we have the holiday today is thanks to a lady named Sarah Josepha Hale, who published a magazine in the 1850s called Godey's Ladies Book, which was very popular. She was the Martha Stewart of the 19th century. She wrote a magazine filled with household hints and cooking tips and recipes, and it was women all over the country, even on the frontier. They wanted to get their Godey's Ladies Book. She passionately believed in Thanksgiving, and every fall she would send letters to every governor of every state and every territory and to the President of the United States asking them to issue a proclamation of Thanksgiving. And for years, between Washington and Lincoln, this was a state-by-state proclamation, and it was very New England. All of New England, by the end of the 18th century, every New England state was remembering Thanksgiving because it had begun in Massachusetts with the Pilgrims. The North and the West, those states tended to follow along, but in the South, it was looked upon as a Yankee holiday, as a Puritan holiday. There was a religious dimension to it, and most of the Southern states did not observe it. So she was tireless in promoting this, and she wrote to Lincoln. And Lincoln, we know that Lincoln was aware. Lincoln did receive her request, and so it's in large part of her that she kept this idea alive of making it a national holiday. And the other thing I want to talk about is, the meal that we have at Thanksgiving. We don't know precisely what the Pilgrims ate, because I always say they didn't save any souvenir menus from the first Thanksgiving Day.
Kevin, Ken, don't you have one?
Could have one.
Don't
in
you
his collection.
remember? Okay.
But we do know that turkey, cranberry, pumpkin, and corn were all plentiful, all abundant. A man named Winslow, who wrote an account, does talk about turkey. He talked about how they sent men out hunting, and there was an abundance of wild turkey. We know that the Indians taught them how to grow corn. We know that pumpkin and cranberries grew, abundantly in Massachusetts. To this day, that's where it's the cranberry capital of the country. So the meal that we eat today, some of it may be in slightly different form than what they actually ate then, but it is definitely based on the same meal.
I suspect a lot of venison maybe was there too.
They talk about the Indians shooting game and bringing venison, so that probably was there as well.
Also goose.
Well, that's not as definite. We know that turkeys were abundant. I
Yeah.
don't know about wild geese in New England. It's possible. It could have been there. Another thing is you read in the books about how in the account of that first Thanksgiving they talked about how the militia, which was commanded by the famous Miles Standish, Captain Miles Standish, organized a militia company, and they exercised their arms as a display for the Indians. This is, in one respect, it's kind of like a beginning of the Thanksgiving Day parade. Macy's parade, in some way, has its origin because this was the idea of going out and having kind of an open-air celebration, something to do. But they also point out they also wanted to impress the Indians, who outnumbered them by a substantial amount, that we have these weapons that you don't have.
That you don't have.
And this, so if you have any ideas about, the future,
Taking over.
that we do have this weaponry that we want to show you what this can do.
Did they register those guns?
I don't think they did. I don't think that. I don't know if they were called assault blunderbusses or not.
Talking about turkey, wasn't it? Maybe I don't have this correct, but wasn't it Benjamin Franklin that wanted to make the turkey the
national bird,
national
symbol,
national bird, and
right.
It didn't fly.
Oh,
it did. John, see,
that
you
was
missed
not one of mine, though.
Yeah, John, I was giving you an opportunity to jump in, but
in the musical 1776, Franklin wants the turkey, Jefferson wants the dove, John Adams wants the eagle, and it's Adams that prevails with the eagle.
Wound up with the parakeet.
Do you think that?
Can you-
Well, I wonder if the people had a big soft chair company. You think they all went and had a soft chair to sit in after
Take
that.
a nap
Watch
after
the
the meal.
football
Take a
game.
nap for
They,
about
lay,
4 or
they,
5 hours.
they laid in a haystack.
And that could be haystack.
Well, you also got to remember what Franklin said about the eagle. He was a scavenger,
Predatory bird.
all this stuff. Where the noble turkey, went on and on with that. But
And then it shall be the eagle.
Yeah.
Was the first Thanksgiving more than one day long?
It was 3 days. It was a 3-day celebration. Our Thanksgiving is a combination of two concepts that go back to England, and one was the idea of a harvest celebration. And the first celebration that they held in 1621 was a harvest celebration. You were gathering in the harvest and celebrating the bounty of the grain. But there was also the Thanksgiving. And Thanksgiving was not directly related to the harvest, but it was, as it says, the idea of giving thanks to God for the blessings that we enjoy. It was a religious observance, and that's why our
He was
Thanksgiving
still
Day to
alive.
this day is a combination of the huge meal coming in the fall at the time of the harvest and eating things like cornbread and cranberries and pumpkin that are plentiful, but also the religious dimension of it. That it is a quasi-religious holiday. I always say the idea of Thanksgiving implies you're giving thanks to God for the blessings that you enjoy. You have to remember that the Pilgrims did not celebrate Christmas.
Right.
They hated Christmas. In the Plymouth colony, you could get into serious trouble for celebrating Christmas. It was considered pagan / Anglican / Catholic, and they were very much hostile to it. So for them, Thanksgiving Day became in some ways a substitute for the celebration of Christmas in New England. And that's why in the 19th century, Catholics, as they became much more numerous as Catholic immigrants came, they were a little standoffish about Thanksgiving Day because it had this sort of anti-Christmas veneer to it. But when the bishops and archbishops realized that this was a patriotic American holiday, they dropped their objection to it, and then Catholic churches began celebrating Christmas with everyone else.
Christmas was relatively new as far as the celebration concerned because of the fact that for many years, even in the Catholic or other Christian areas, it's just sort of passed over as such, where the death of Christ was more of a...
No.
No, this goes back
Passover
to
was a Jewish holiday.
No, it was a pagan holiday.
Some of it goes back to Cromwell in England, and
It goes back to
they were very
Germany.
hostile to Christmas.
Yeah, Germany.
Well,
Germany
the other
was one
thing-
of the first
Yeah,
that
that's what I
celebrated Christmas was
thought.
the big thing over there, and a lot of our things that we do now came from the German people.
Oh, sure, the
Yeah.
Christmas tree.
Christmas
Yeah.
tree.
Well,
What else?
you got to remember,
The
though,
Christkindl
the Christmas
market.
tree had nothing to do with Christmas. It was a dreary, cold day and everything else. They wanted to bring some life into the area. They brought the tree into the
And
Oh,
light.
the-
Into the
house. And
The
then after
Yule
a while, it
log
got
is an old
decorated and stuff
predates
like-
Christianity too, I think.
And
Even-
then when the Christians came up there, they thought this was a pagan symbol of sorts, and they had a lot of fights going on before the church finally converted to saying, well, this is a symbol of Christmas, stuff like that. So it's sort of a very mixed beginning.
But I mean,
Yeah,
when you
a lot
look
of
at Thanksgiving, how it developed, there's all these different strains that sort,
Yeah.
the patriotism, the religion, the harvest, the Pilgrims, New England, and you put, and today we have this beautiful holiday that owes its origin to all these different.
Now let's not forget the football games.
Right.
Well, the other thing funny about the Christmas tree, I know a Jewish kid who loved the Christmas tree, and the rabbis, you can't do this, can't do this. But it has no real symbolism of Christmas other than the fact that it's a
It's put up
tradition
that
that was
time of year.
carried on from the pagans.
A lot of our holidays are
Yeah.
from pagan origin.
Oh, yeah.
Some say Christ was very likely born in the spring.
Yeah.
I thought it was a summer, but that's beside the point.
What's
Do
that?
you know the
Christ.
first
probably.
football game broadcasted was the Chicago Bears and the
I'm
Detroit
sorry, what?
Lions. The very first NFL game that was broadcasted on the radio was the Chicago Bears.
Really?
And, yeah,
You don't
and the
remember?
Detroit
No.
Lions.
What was
1934.
what did they lose by?
No, they won that.
1934?
Uh-huh.
Oh.
Yeah, they
And were they
Bears won last
broadcasting
week.
on
I saw.
Thanksgiving, I wonder.
Yes, on Thanksgiving.
I know the owner of the Detroit Lions came up with this idea of having the Thanksgiving Day game, and they
Yeah,
thought
he
you're
was-
he owned a radio
and they
station.
played
I can't think of his name. He moved the team from somewhere. They were in some small town,
Portsmouth or someplace like
somewhere
that.
those
Yeah.
in Ohio or wherever, and became the Detroit Lions. And he said, "We'll do this." And, oh, you're crazy! And they had the Bears, and the place was packed.
Yeah.
So
And it's a tradition. They
Yeah,
still
now it's
And
like,
the
yeah, you know.
Lions, play every
Yeah.
year.
So it was also
on
part of it.
Thanksgiving.
You gotta remember at one time Chicago had the Cardinals too, but that's beside the point.
well, we got a new Cardinal now, though.
Yeah, we-
don't have one.
Oh.
How many people out there don't know that the Arizona Cardinals, formerly the St. Louis Cardinals, were the Chicago Cardinals, and they were the Racine Cardinals Athletic Club at one time. Or
St.
something like
Rita
that.
High School band was the official band of the Chicago Cardinals.
Oh, really? Oh.
But the
And
other thing,
the,
you look at the new, you look at Kupich, his nose, and Carl Malden, very similar nose.
Oh, I didn't
You
notice
notice
that.
what was interesting about that is the ethnic connection there. You were mentioning like Bridgeport, Lithuanian.
Lithuanica.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Lithuanica
Lithuanica.
Street.
And actually, what is the Archbishop?
His ancestry is Croatian.
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 Yeah,
And that's what they mentioned Saint Jerome, the
Saint
28th.
Jerome, right.
at
Oh, yeah,
Princeton,
that's
and there
in-
was a Saint John Nepomucene there too, and I don't know if they're
Well,
And the
the
east
other one they
side?
come up with because new Cardinals' name is Basil. They come up with Saint Basil, and they gave a description.
No, Blaze.
Basil.
Blaze.
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 Oh, St.
Blaze.
Blaze.
That's a great name.
Yeah.
It was Carmen Basilio.
One correction is he's not the new cardinal. He's the new
Right.
archbishop.
Yeah,
I know.
yeah,
He's
Cardinal
he's
the
not
there.
a cardinal.
You see this on TV, all they're saying, the new
Yeah.
cardinal.
No,
Well,
right.
that's that. I'm sure at some
Sure,
point
he-
he will become
Yeah.
it, but that's
Yeah.
a special appointment that comes
Yeah.
directly. He's the Archbishop of Chicago.
Exactly now.
You know,
They
prior to,
pretender to the throne.
Oh, dear.
well, that's
The red
that's-
hat is
that's just,
separate from
yeah,
the-
it's just
it's
an
a-
honorary thing.
He's a
but
prince of the church.
prior to Vatican II, anybody could become a cardinal,
Oh yeah, there were lay
and
cardinals.
there were lay
There
cardinals.
were lay
and,
cardinals.
That's interesting.
Some of the priests that became cardinals were like heads of religious orders. You
Used to have-
take like the head of the Franciscan, he's a priest. He's not a bishop. He's not an archbishop. And he could become. A
They
cardinal.
can get designation as bishop, though. They did in the Augustinians, anyway, of course. They also gave us Martin Luther.
Oh, he's a great guy.
Or Lex Luthor. Which one was it?
That was Superman's
Martin Luther.
Was, yeah.
If it, just
He did a little reform work there.
But we digress.
Yeah, that's
But
really
the
good.
other thing is, before I go away, is you realize the Pilgrims, the Puritans are still in existence. Now they call them the Congregationalists.
Is that what that is?
Basically, the origins
that's
of
the
the church.
same
yeah.
same religious denomination as the original Pilgrims.
Yeah.
There's a great movie about the Mayflower called Plymouth Adventure,
Yeah.
with Spencer Tracy as the captain of the Mayflower and Jean
Never saw
Tierney
that.
as the wife of Governor Bradford. And Leo Gann, a great English actor, plays Bradford. It's a great movie, made in the early 50s. Van Johnson is in it, and tells the whole story about the passage across the Atlantic.
It wasn't about a car, was it?
No, it's not. It's not the Dodge Adventure or the Chrysler Adventure. It's the Plymouth Adventure. And I'm a Ford man, and I'm publicizing
I want to, in
competing.
this last minute or so, I want to wish a happy Thanksgiving to all of our listeners.
Thank you.
very happy
Yeah.
Very much
Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Very so.
Great
Happy
American
Thanksgiving. We'll see
holiday.
you
On
time
behalf
for-
of Windy City hometown, and
Shut it
our wait a minute, wait, no, we got to say our wait, hold
we
on,
go.
time out. Want to say thank you for everyone who's been here, to Mary Zangs, our guest,
Thank you.
and to Tom McKenna, Ken Little, Al
you.
Opitz, Bill Kugelman, and Kate, John Kushelko, and last but not least,
Rich
the
Lang,
man who's
your
much more
announcer.
than our announcer from Academia. What's your name again? Oh, Rich Lang.
Yeah.
And one more thing, folks. Remember that history is much more than a book you keep on the shelf. Oh, John DeVita, too.
We wish to thank Kevin of Jack FM, WRHS 89.7 FM, for broadcasting our shows over the Ridgewood Radio Network. Recordings of previous Meet the Chicago Historians programs are available for your listening via the internet at www.windycityhometown.com. And we especially thank the executive producer of Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network, John Sikanda. On behalf of everyone associated with our Historians program, we thank you for listening. And as we said before, we wish you a very happy Thanksgiving. This is your announcer, Rich Lang. So long until next time.
You have been listening to Meet the Chicago Historians from the John DeVita Broadcast Center on the Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network on Monday, November the 17th, the year 2014. This broadcast was produced by Jack Ryan, directed by John DeVita, edited by Stephen Lehman. Our audio engineer is James Rohde, and the executive producer of Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network is Mr. John Sikanda. On behalf of the entire staff, we wish each and every one of you a very, very happy Thanksgiving. And be safe, and thanks for listening.